As the calendar turns to August, it can only mean one thing. The NFL season is right around the corner. And with that in mind, the Louie T Network exclusives are back like cook crack. Choose from any of the three or all three of the LTN exclusives: Winners and Losers League, Soul Survivor Pool, Weekly Pick'em, all at your fingertips. Links are down in the description along with the video to help you sign up. Don't sit on the sideline. Get in the game.
Who else could it be? Me, Unit, Louie T. Welcome to the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Y'all gotta excuse me. So I was just watching a couple of the videos that I had made, the videos that I had posted on IG last year after we beat the Eagles, and talking trash to LB and Eagles fans. And I was getting a kick out of one of them last year that I had made. Both of them were funny though, but I was tickled on that one that I was just watching. So y'all gotta excuse me for that. Anyway, there's a couple of items I want to get to tonight before we get to the main reason why we're here tonight, which is the 53-man roster and my roster projections. The fight to 53 is in full force, and it culminates in a week 3 preseason game on Saturday night at home versus the Cincinnati Bengals. So we'll be talking about the 53-man roster, what I think it's going to ultimately look like. Now, there are some things that, and I have some caveats, and we will discuss those as we get to those particular positions and what I think could happen and what the ripple effect from, this or that happening and what it could mean for the roster. So we'll get into that a little bit later on in the show. I made a post earlier on, no, I'm not lit, Samuel. Nah, I'll let y'all know. Trust me, I tell y'all in advance when I'm lit. Oh, so just so you know in advance, right now, I'm telling you, I'm going to be lit on Saturday night when I come for the post-game show, the week 3 preseason game against the Bengals. I'm going to be lit. I'm going to be intoxicated in some form or fashion, whether I've taken an Eddie or I've drank or both. Because if you expect me to sit through anywhere from 2 to 3 quarters of Jake Fromm sober, you must be outside your goddamn mind. So trust and believe, Saturday night, I will be something, inebriated, high, both, something. Anyway, but I'm not now. I'm good right now. So couple of things I wanted to get to before we get to the 53-man roster, my projection for it. I posted this on Twitter. So you see the Arizona Cardinals, you see what's going on with them, right? And I mentioned this to you guys previously about what happens when a regime change takes place. And everyone's so hopeful that Ron is done after this year and he gets canned and he takes all of his cronies with him and they replace everybody with a new competent GM and a new head coach and this, that, and the third. And look, I've already stressed this. Ron probably isn't the best man for the job. I am fully aware, and Martin Mayhew probably not the best GM. I'm fully aware of all of this. All right. And I'm not saying I don't want those things to happen eventually, but understand where we are in our development process. It's probably not for the best for that to take place right now. Now, again, every situation is different. You can't just throw a blanket over every single NFL franchise and say that because this is happening in this locale, it's going to happen here. But let's be real with ourselves. If you've watched enough football, if you've seen enough coaching changes, but more so regime changes, which means the GM is fired and you bring in a brand new GM, we've seen that song and dance before, all right? And when you do that, changes are going to be made. The Cardinals have a new GM, and you see what he's doing. Guys that are going into the last year of their rookie contracts, Isaiah Simmons, let's move him. He didn't even move him for something reasonable. Let's just get rid of him. Let's have a yard sale. Make me an offer. I'll give you a 7th round pick. Deal. Josh Jones started 11 games for him at tackle last year. 2nd round pick. Make me an offer. I don't know what the offer was. Deal. Shipped him off to Houston. All he's doing right now is he's stockpiling picks. You look at what the Cardinals are doing. They're stockpiling picks for future drafts so that he can turn over that roster. He's not looking to retain the talent that was there from Steve Keim, who brought in all of those guys. He doesn't give a shit about those players. He could care less. His eyes is on turning this thing around with his players so he can say he did it his way. There are very few GMs that get to where they are by just keeping it status quo. They're going to come in and they're going to try to put their stamp, their imprint on the organization. And that means getting rid of players that you like. Now, again, it may end up being the right thing. And I'm not telling you that I want Ron and company to be here because I'm afraid of change. I'm just telling you, with what we've built here, change all at once may not be the best thing. That's what I'm pretty much saying to you. You want Cam Curl back? That next GM may come here and say, F Cam Curl. If they don't get a deal done with him before the start of the season, during the season at some point, and he's left out there on a hook, and Ron and company get canned after the season, the new GM may come in and say, he can walk. When's the last time he created a turnover? We see more than that here in Washington. But that new GM could give 2 shits about what Cam Curl means to this defense. He's out of here. All these players that we got, Benjamin St. Juste, and hey, this new coach may come in, bring in a defensive coordinator. They may play a man-to-man scheme, and Juice might not be a fit for that. He can carry his ass too. And all of a sudden, this shit that we watch them build brick by brick, piece by piece, that we're starting to become attached to, that we somewhat are proud of. We'll see what happens this season and what we really think of these players. But they drafted these players to fit a specific scheme. The next coach comes in here, the next GM comes in here, they can give 2 shits about Jack Del Rio's scheme. Remember when Mike Shanahan came to Washington? Remember when Bruce Allen got here? They said we're gonna turn this team into a 3-4 defense. We didn't have the parts for a 3-4. They started shipping guys out, getting rid of players left and right. Out with the old, in with the new. We sucked for 2 years before we got Robert Griffin III. While they were trying to shift things around and get rid of this guy and make Andre Carter a stand-up, 2-point stance, outside linebacker. Yeah, right. Remember Ryan Kerrigan was an outside linebacker standing up in a 2-point stance? That was disgusting. Yeah, that was really nasty. So I said all of that to say this. I hope you're paying attention to what's going on in Arizona. That was my post on Twitter or X. They're changing everything in Arizona because they've got a new general manager and a new head coach. And the pieces that they had previously, and I'm not saying those guys were playing excellent ball in Arizona. I don't want to make it seem like I know exactly what Josh Jones and Isaiah Simmons were doing out there. They made a whole position switch from linebacker to safety permanently for Isaiah Simmons before trading him. I'm not telling you that he was playing outstanding ball for them. When you give a guy away for a 7th round pick, it pretty much means we're trying to get rid of him at all costs. Remember, they moved on from DeAndre Hopkins, and we said, what the hell are they doing? They didn't even trade him. They just cut him. Ate money and everything, and it didn't make sense to me then. It still doesn't make sense to me now. Doesn't have to make sense. I just want to do it my way. So for all of you, clean house, I hope Josh Harris fires everybody and starts over. I'm just telling you, be careful what you wish for. You just might get it. And when you get it, you might realize this is not what I wanted. Anyway, I digress. Something that really struck a nerve with me, over the last 24 hours or so, it's just been gnawing at me to the point where I made a post this morning on X. And it's just funny to me because I could see this coming a mile away. I made a comment to you guys before the Monday night game that this Monday night game, even though it's a preseason game, is going to be big because everybody's going to be watching. And they have absolutely no idea what's going on in Washington. None. And, I'm fine with that, because when you are the worst team in your division, whether that's 500 at 8-1 or 3-14, it doesn't really matter. When you're seen as the worst team in your division, that's what you're viewed as. And so you factor in a first-year starter who was a fifth-round pick, and it makes it easy for teams to just, people to just dismiss you, right? That's fine. All right. The disrespect over the offseason was a little bit much for me. It was over the top, but as a Washington fan, I'm used to it, right? The disrespect felt like it was not at an all-time high. I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment because we've been in worse situations where worse has been said about us. But it felt like it was very consistent for no reason, right? This was supposed to be an off-season of celebration, and just let us be, right? Leave us alone. Let us be in our own little world, in our own little bubble. No more Daniel Snyder. Just let us have this year. They couldn't let us have it. They had to talk shit about us. They had to talk shit about Sam. They had to talk about how, this team is going to win less than 6 games. We're going to be in the #1 overall pick sweepstakes. Stay away from this guy in fantasy. Stay away from that guy. Sam Howell's their quarterback. There's no way they're going to be successful this year. Eric Bieniemy couldn't get a head coaching job. He's their offensive coordinator. What does he even have to work with in Washington? Some guy named Sam Howell is going to be his quarterback. We heard all of this shit all offseason. Hell, I've seen publications that refused to make Sam Howell the starter, that said Jacoby Brissett was going to be our starter. That's how little they thought of Sam Howell. And I said, this Monday night game is going to be huge for a lot of people who just have no idea what we're out here doing. They're clueless. And I want Sam to start shitting on everybody from week 2 of the preseason to put everybody on notice and alert that this ain't what you thought it was. But now I just needed, I forgot to add this one caveat though. Once he starts shitting on you, don't try to switch sides, right? Like, don't all of a sudden have amnesia to the shit you were saying 2 weeks ago, 2 months ago. Don't all of a sudden forget that you were talking cold hard cash about the Washington Commanders just a week ago, just 2 weeks ago. Now all of a sudden, I'm waking up to all these videos. Could the Washington Commanders be the sleeper team in the NFC? No, we can't. Don't try to switch sides now. Stay over there. I saw all the jokes, all the articles, all the comments, all the talking heads, talking shit. Now everybody want to be our friend now. Oh, look at Sam Howell. Man, they might have something in Washington. You think all of a sudden we just woke up and had talent? You forgot that Terry McLaurin was on this team? You forgot that we had Curtis Samuel, Jahan Dotson, a young up-and-coming budding star at the wide receiver position? I'm not even going to throw De'Ami Brown in there. He's going to have to prove it this year. But he looks like he's poised to do some damage this season. We're not going to talk about the running backs. We're not going to talk about the tight end position. And I know Cole Turner has to prove it. I'm looking forward to seeing him do that. Logan Thomas has to get healthy and stay healthy. I understand all of that. Offensive line, we still got questions about the offensive line. I'm fully aware of all of that. I don't know what this season is going to be, by the way. Not sitting here trying to lambaste people. All I'm saying is, if you thought we were going to be trash, keep that same energy. Don't switch sides. Too many people in the media, and this is shit that pisses me off. Too many people in the media want to play both sides of the fence. They don't want to be wrong. And that bothers me. Because when I said Jalen Hurts was going to be trash, and he turned out to be nice as F, I had to sit in my shit. I had to let that one marinate. I had to stew in that shit. Sometimes you take L's. Big, fat, nasty L's. Sometimes you got to take them and you got to sit there and you just got to let that shit simmer. Yeah, I was pissed off. He was nice. Shit happens. But you know what I did? I took mine like a man. Because I made the statements. I talked the shit. So now I got to sit here and I got to take this L. What we're not going to do is we're not going to start moonwalking before you take this fat ass L saying about to deliver to your monkey ass. That's what you're not going to do. You're not going to start switching sides. You know what this reminds me of? An episode of In Living Color. Remember when Tommy Davidson would be outside the movie theaters with Jamie Foxx, kikiing, laughing at people. Then soon as one of those stars would come over there and confront Jamie Foxx, Tommy Davidson would switch sides and start pointing at Jamie Foxx and talking shit. We're not doing that. You ain't on our team. You ain't on our side. We drew a line in the sand a while ago when you was talking shit. We drew a line in the sand. Don't cross that bitch. You ain't on our team. You ain't on our side. Stay over there. You picked the side already. Stay over there. I don't want to hear nothing about Washington being a sleeper team or look out for the command. If you weren't talking that shit 2 months ago, don't talk that shit after Monday night. Stay over there. Because we coming. Don't try to come over here and act like you've been with us. Because if you ain't with us, you against us. And a lot of y'all was against us. So stay on that side. I read at least 7 articles all of a sudden talking about, hey, you should pick this guy up in fantasy. You should pick this guy up. You weren't talking that shit 2 weeks ago. Hey, look out for the Commanders. Sam Howell looks like he might be something. You won't say it. Same publication, same author. You weren't talking that shit 2 weeks ago. Stay on that side. All right, I'm done. Anyway, let's talk about the 53-man roster, man. Enough of me yelling for no reason. So this third preseason game always holds value for the guys on the back end of the roster trying to make a football team. And whether it's ours or it's somebody else's around the league, this game definitely holds weight for these players. Now, the assumption for us is you're not going to see very many of our starters out here. As a matter of fact, I don't think you're going to see any of them, personally, offense or defense. I know Jacoby Brissett took some reps with the ones in practice the other day, just for him to get a little bit more familiar with those guys, because if anything should happen and he has to go in, they would like him to have some working reference point with those guys. But at the end of the day, he's going to be out there with a bunch of backups in the game on Saturday night against Cincinnati. And it's going to be a long game. Okay. The good thing now, though, is we have some guys that you can root for, some guys that may ultimately end up on this roster. And even some of the guys that don't end up on the 53-man roster, they're probably going to end up on the practice squad. And at some point may even be pulled up to the active roster on game day during the course of the season. So there's some things on the line. And with that said, let's get to the 53-man roster, my projections, that is. And the official 53-man rosters will be crystallized on the 29th at 4 p.m. That's when NFL rosters must be trimmed to 53. So Saturday comes, they'll play the game. My guess is Sunday they'll start trimming guys off. The guys that have absolutely no shot, of making the team. Those guys will be cut first. And then I think Monday is when they'll start cutting some of the players that, the guys that you really want to give a shot to catch on around the rest of the league. You cut those guys first because you don't want them back. Give them a shot to see if they can't latch on somewhere else. Tuesday's cuts are going to be the intimate ones, the ones where you really don't want to cut this guy, but you don't have a choice, but you would love to have him back on your practice squad. They have to make the determination whether they want to be back on the practice squad or do they want to test the waters elsewhere. So whatever the case may be, Tuesday will be live that night talking 53-man roster and what decisions they made, how we feel about them, were there any surprises, and then we move forward. I know you heard the news with Terry today. That could impact the roster. I know we talked about Dax Milne yesterday. That could impact the roster and some decisions that are made. So without any further ado, let's take a look, see what we got. All right. So I feel really confident about mine. Last year, I think I hit like 48 out of 53 last year. I think that was the number. So I'm getting really close. 2 years, the year before that, I was 46 out of 53, I believe. So I'm getting dangerously close now. So let's see how we do this year. So we know the quarterback position is pretty easy. It was easy last year. It's easy again this year. Last year it was 3. This year it's 2. Sam Howell, Jacoby Brissett are going to be your 2 quarterbacks. Jake Fromm will be around, right? The new rule where you can have a third quarterback on game day, not count against the roster. Of the 53-man roster, but he has to be on the roster. Jake Fromm is not going to be on the roster, but he will be on the practice squad. So 2 quarterbacks on the final 53-man roster. 4 running backs. This one, it could be dicey here. So Brian Robinson Jr., Antonio Gibson, Chris Rodriguez Jr. are all locks. We know this for a fact. We have no debates there. Alex Arma is a guy that I just think his versatility is just going to be too enticing for this team to pass up. They've talked about positional flex. It's the most used buzzword and phrase around these parts in quite some time. And since cardiovascular endurance, probably, with Donovan McNabb. And so I think they can't pass up Alex Arma as a Swiss Army knife. Can double as a running back, a tight end, a fullback. I just think he's too valuable. So I got Alex Arma making this football team. And they could definitely keep just 3. They could take Alex Arma out, end up stashing him on the practice squad. Nobody's snatching up fullbacks these days. And, add another running back in here, whether it's Jonathan Williams or Jarrett Patterson or whomever, Derek Gore. They could add another running back instead of Alex Arma. I'm just going to go with Alex Arma. I think he's done some things that I think are going to ultimately be valuable for this football team. And because the Chiefs routinely carried a fullback, I think there's a place in this offense and on this team for Alex Arma. So 4 running backs, 7 wide receivers. Okay. Now we're going to spend some time at the receiver position. So the number is 7 right now. Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, Jahan Dotson, De'Ami Brown, Byron Pringle, to me, are all locks. Okay, those 5 guys, again, no debating those 5 for me. Now, some people may debate Byron Pringle. Go right ahead. Knock yourself out. He's making this football team. Now, Dax Milne and Kazmir Allen are the 2 guys that are up for debate. Now, here's where things get interesting. So you heard Terry's situation. And Adam Schefter is okay. So I purposefully said Ian Rappaport when I said, I want to wake up tomorrow. This was the day of the game against the Ravens in week 2 of the preseason. And I said, I want to wake up tomorrow, and I want to wake up with a tweet from Ian Rappaport saying that Terry McLaurin and the Washington Commanders dodged a bullet with his injury. It's thought to not be as serious because Ian Rappaport's way more optimistic. He's the glass half full guy. Adam Schefter's the guy you need. Ian Rappaport's the guy you want because Ian's going to be nice. He wants you to like him. Adam Schefter don't give a shit. He's going to tell it to you like it is, and he's even going to be a dick about it. And you need that sometimes. So he today was like, hey, week 1 status up in the air. It's uncertain with turf toe. That's not what we want to hear, but that's the truth. Or as a wise man once said, that's the truth of the matter. That's what it is. We already knew that. We knew what we were signing up for when he got hurt. If he doesn't play week 1, I wouldn't even be that upset. To be honest with you, I want to see this offense at full capacity, but I also want to see Terry, when he finally hits the field, be as healthy as he can possibly be. But he may never be that this year. We may have to wrap our brains around that. Anyway. So Dax Milne and Kazmir Allen are both making the roster as of right now to me. Now, here's the thing. Dax Milne suffered what Ron Rivera termed as a groin injury, a setback, he called it. So maybe he was already dealing with a slight groin injury, and then he tried to play through it, knowing that I can't afford to miss any game time because I got this young fella, Kazmir Allen, breathing down my neck, trying to make this roster, and a bunch of other guys that are solid pieces of the puzzle that could take my spot as well. But Kazmir Allen is his main competition. And so he probably tried to gut it out on Monday night, re-aggravated something that was already nagging him, and exacerbated it, and now he wasn't practicing. Probably not going to play in his 3rd preseason game, which is almost a death sentence for him. And so that could change a lot of things. Now, again, the severity of that injury is going to be key, because if Washington feels like they're in a position to put him on IR, they could do that, not worry about losing him, and just roll with Kazmir Allen. Or they could wait, see what Kazmir Allen does in his preseason game, because who knows what happens. Some catastrophe could take place in this game, and you need Dax Milne all of a sudden. I know from what I've seen with this group, I know they don't want to cut Dax. They'll do it if they have to. I'm leaving it at 7 for now. Put a pin in that. We'll come back. Okay. Tight end, there's nothing here to see. Nobody else stepped up. There could have been real conversations had at the tight end position if somebody else would have stepped up this year. There was plenty of opportunity, just like last year, when there were guys that were down and Armani Rogers stepped up. There was opportunity, space, and everything you could ask for those other guys that were here, and nobody stepped up and grabbed an opportunity to try to make this football team. And so it's just 3. Logan Thomas, John Bates, Cole Turner. And as I mentioned, the versatility of Alex Arma allows you to be comfortable with just keeping 3, because Alex Arma could easily slide into that tight end room and be your 4th tight end if you need one. So I think 3 is the comfortable number there. Offensive line, 10. Now, here's the interesting part about the offensive line. Andrew Wiley, Charles Leno, Cornelius Lucas, locks, okay? Sam Cosmi, Sadiq Charles, Chris Paul, locks. That's 6. Nick Gates, Ricky Stromberg, locks. That's 8. Trenton Scott is one of my favorites this year. Every year I have a guy that I just bang the table for, and I'm not letting him go. And if he doesn't make it, I'll bitch and complain. I'll move on, but I'll bitch and complain first because I have my reasons. Trenton Scott is that guy for me this year. He needs to be here. Tyler Larson is another guy that's a veteran, has played here before. I didn't think he would be back. I'm going to be brutally honest with you. After he got hurt for the second consecutive year, similar to Chase Roulier, I thought we were done with him. They brought him back on another one-year deal. I'm looking at Tyler Larsen and with what they're doing with Ricky Stromberg right now. I could see them not keeping Tyler Larsen on this roster, putting him on the practice squad, and keeping their 4th-round pick, Braden Daniels, instead of Tyler Larsen. Now, for my money right now, they're going to keep Tyler Larsen. But if they wanted this number to get to 11, they could keep all 10 of these guys, add Braden Daniels to the mix, and take away one of the receivers. Now, Kazmir Allen has to play well. To me, he is the single most biggest to gain player. He stands to gain the most from a solid to really good performance on Saturday night. That's Kazmir Allen. He needs to be returning everything in sight. He needs to catch the damn football. We know he struggled in that area, and he's not a polished receiver. And honestly, he's not making the team for that right now. He has time to develop as a receiver. No one gives a shit. Nobody cared that Joshua Cribbs wasn't a dynamic receiver, right? Because Joshua Cribbs was one of the best punt and kickoff return men in the league during his time as a Cleveland Brown. We don't care about his ability to catch the football. We care about his ability to return punts and kickoffs, and he'll have to do both. And I said this to you guys when we got him as a UDFA. I said, isn't it strange to you guys? You guys don't care about this? You don't have questions? You don't think it's very suspicious that he didn't return punts at UCLA? You think that was on accident? So he's this dynamic playmaker. You got to get it in his hands. He's returning kickoffs. He's run some back for touchdowns. And you don't think they said, we should put him back on punts too. You don't think they thought about that? There's a reason they didn't put him on punts. I'm not saying, I'm just saying, and I don't know about you, but I already brought this up to you on the last video that I did, or 2 videos ago. He bobbled that final punt. Now, he caught it, but it wasn't clean. I don't know if I've ever seen Dax Milne bobble a punt. You guys are so fixated on dynamic returns. Look across the league. And I'm not saying we got to be like everybody else. I want a dynamic return man in the worst way, just like the rest of you. You know what I value? Because I've gone through the years with Jamison Crowder and Steven Sims Jr. of not even being able to field the goddamn ball. You know what I value most? Possession. You know what doesn't kill me? A 6-yard return, a 2-yard return, a no gain. That doesn't kill me as much as, oh shit, he just muffed the punt and the Bears recovered. Oh shit, he fumbled on the return and the Bears recovered. That shit doesn't hurt me as much as that. But so you guys are so blinded by, oh man, he can do this and he can do that. Catch the goddamn ball first. He bobbled that bitch on Monday night in a crucial spot. I'm not saying he can't return punts, and I'm not saying that this is something that we have to worry about. I'm just telling you, be mindful of that. There's a reason he didn't return punts at UCLA. Anyway, if they truly want to keep Braden Daniels, and I know they do, you know what would show me growth as an organization? What would show me growth is if they cut Braden Daniels. He's not ready to help you right now, and nobody's going to take him. Nobody's going to snatch up Braden Daniels if you cut him. Maybe the Cowboys thought the same thing about John Ridgeway when they put him on the practice squad and we came and snatched him up. All it takes is for one team to have scouted Braden Daniels, really liked him, and say, hey, they just cut Braden Daniels. You want to go get him? And they go, yeah. And they come and get him. And they're afraid of that. You want to win now, or you want to win 2 years from now when you're not here? If you're Ron Rivera and company, you got a decision to make. Do you want to build the best possible roster to help you win in 2023 and potentially save your job? Or you want to think about the future and not potentially have a chance to be here in 2025 when Braden Daniels is actually ready to help you? You decide. You want to show growth? Admit that you made a mistake in the 4th round. Not that you made a mistake long term. He may actually turn out to be a damn good tackle in this league. Worst case scenario, he might turn out to be a damn good swing tackle, Braden Daniels. Who knows? He ain't ready to help you this year, though. Trenton Scott is. And I'm telling you right now, after backup quarterback, the most sought-after position in the NFL is a swing tackle. If you can find a guy that can come in and give you quality snaps at both left and right tackle, you're dying to get your hands on one of those type of guys. I'm not telling you that Trenton Scott is the second coming of Ty Nsekhe in his prime here in Washington, or Cornelius Lucas for us right now. I'm not telling you that he's that. But I'm telling you he's very serviceable. And there are teams out there right now who don't have a guy that they trust as a backup tackle right now. And if you send a guy like Trenton Scott off into the wilderness, somebody's going to snatch his ass up. And I remember, I don't know about you, I remember back in 2020 when we had injuries at the tackle position and Morgan Moses had to switch over from right tackle to left tackle in the middle of a game. And we had to insert David Sharp. And I said, oh, shit, all hell's about to break loose. Anytime David Sharp stepped foot on the field, I knew imminent danger was upon us. Danger, Robinson, danger. I don't feel that way with Trenton Scott. God forbid we have to go to our 4th tackle. But if we do, I feel comfortable. There's not this ridiculous fall and drop off of a cliff in terms of productivity. I'm comfortable still. You cut him, you're not going to get him back. I think if you cut, and again, I could be wrong, and somebody could snatch up Braden Daniels, and they may be terrified of losing their 4th round pick. Show some stones. Show some stones. Have some balls. You made a pick that wasn't going to help you. You knew that this man was not going to be able to help you in his rookie season. And still, you pulled the trigger in the 4th round anyway. Now, you got to be man enough to say, you know what? He can't help us right now. We need to win. We're trying to prove it to a new owner. We got to cut him and put him on the practice squad. And if we lose him, we lose him. You got to be okay with that. I don't think they're going to be okay with that because they're not bosses like that. Their mind doesn't work in that manner. They're so scared. Oh, no, we're going to lose him. Oh, we got to keep him. So either they're not going to keep Trenton Scott, and I will rant if they cut Trenton Scott to keep Braden Daniels. I will be pissed off. Or they'll keep 11 offensive linemen, which I think is absurd. That's way too many. Now you're trimming off fat somewhere where you don't need to necessarily, but you can trim off fat at receiver. You probably don't have to have Kazmir Allen and Dax Milne. You probably need to have Kazmir Allen or Dax Milne. But again, those two are different guys, right? Like, it'd be one thing if they were carbon copies and you're choosing between the two. But Dax is more of a receiver. He's only on special teams because it was out of necessity. It doesn't have to be out of necessity anymore. You can keep Dax Milne just as a receiver. And you can have Kazmir Allen just as a specialist. Like, you don't have to cut one at the expense of the other unless you want to keep an extra offensive lineman. Then a tough decision has to be made. To me, unnecessarily, by the way. But really, to me, the shuffling of receiver and offensive line is going to come down to Braden Daniels. He's the key to all of this. Because if you want, you can keep 7 receivers. You don't even have to cut one of them. But if you keep Braden Daniels over Trenton Scott, I have a problem with that. If you add Braden Daniels to this mix and make it 11, while I don't love it, somebody's got to go at receiver then. You can't keep 7 receivers and 11 offensive linemen. It's one or the other. And it could be 6 receivers and 10 offensive linemen. Who knows? I can't see them keeping 9. John Kahn made a case for 9. And I would assume that Ricky Stromberg being able to play guard and center gives them the comfort level of moving on from Larson, maybe sticking him on the practice squad, and then Trenton Scott not making the team. But I just can't see a scenario in which you don't keep Braden Daniels or Trenton Scott. One of them is on the roster, if not both of them. So Trenton Scott's been too impressive this camp. You have to keep him. All right. So you total that all up, 2 quarterbacks, 4 running backs, 7 receivers. That's 13, 3 tight ends, 16, and 10 offensive linemen for a grand total of 26. So Ron talked today about being very impressed with Ricky Stromberg and his development. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But 26 on the offensive side of the football. Let's move to the defensive side of the football. I feel really, really confident about this side. I'll be shocked if I get any of this wrong. Okay. So defensive line, to me, it's now, let me say this. This is the one thing that I could get wrong, and I probably will get wrong because, like I just said with Braden Daniels, this regime doesn't like to cut their draft picks. For the most part, outside of, like William Bradley King, most of their draft picks have made the team. Like, go look at all of their drafts since Ron has gotten here. You won't find very many guys that didn't make the team. So, and this is not like the draft that they had a couple of years ago where it's like 10, 11 dudes. This is a 7-player draft. So in their mind, they should be able to retain all 7 of the players that they drafted. So I could see this being 11 right here. And instead of having 11 offensive linemen, they got 11 defensive linemen. Or instead of having 6 receivers, they got, or 7 receivers, they got 6, and they have an 11th defensive lineman, and they keep KJ Henry. Another guy that doesn't deserve to be on the roster, personally. And, can I just say this? There was once upon a time, day 3 selections weren't guaranteed. 4th rounders, yeah, they were supposed to make your team. But 5th round and later, they weren't guaranteed to make your team. Like, since when does 5th, 6th, and 7th rounders have to make your team? Like, that to me is asinine. Like, just because you draft a player doesn't mean he has to make your football team. It didn't used to be that way. I don't know when that became a rule. Like, hey, hold on a minute. We drafted this guy. We got to make some room for him. No, the hell you don't. He's a 5th round pick. He's not ready yet. Once upon a time, 5th, 6th, and 7th round picks were developmental. If they made the team, it was a surprise. Now, all of a sudden, it's expected that a 5th, 6th, and 7th rounder make your team. If they've earned the roster spot, by all means, please put them on the roster. But if they don't, if they're not ready, again, all of this shit was okay with me. I can't speak for you. All of this shit was okay with me when we were building this roster up, when we didn't have shit. When Isaiah Wright was one of our receivers, when Dontrell Inman was one of our receivers, this was okay. I was fine. Okay. When Roberts was one of our cornerbacks, I was fine with this. When we were debating about keeping, David Bada, Daniel Wise at defensive tackle, I was okay with you keeping a 5th, 6th, or 7th round pick because these are the guys we're arguing about. Daniel Wise. Those days are over. Okay? Like, those discussions aren't being had anymore. There's not guys on the back end of the roster where you go, who? Really? This is the guy we're keeping? That's over with. So now you need to make real decisions and you got to cut your losses. Just because you drafted a guy in the 5th round and he doesn't make the team, it doesn't mean you're giving up on him. He's just not ready. Just like William Bradley King, he's still here. You drafted him in the 7th round 3 years ago. He's still here. He just hasn't been on the roster for real, right? Every now and again, you'll pull him up from the practice squad, but he's still around. He's still trying to fight to make this team. Doesn't mean you have to keep him on the roster. Again, if you feel like you're going to lose a player, do what you feel like you got to do. KJ Henry ain't shown us shit this preseason. Now, I can't tell you what he's doing in practice. I can't vouch for that. He ain't shown us a damn thing in the game. So why would you keep him on the final 53-man roster when there are players who we know can contribute right now? Same thing with Braden Daniels. Why would you keep a guy that, even if you got in a pinch, he can't help? That makes zero sense to me. That you would keep a player that can't help you at all. You need him to go in the game, and you can't even look his way. Why would you do that? Where's the psychological sense in that? You need to wash your face and get your mind right if you think that's a good idea. And I feel the same way about KJ Henry right now. Andre Jones is what KJ Henry was supposed to be for us. You got one. You didn't think Andre Jones was going to make, I didn't think he was going to make the team. I shitted all over Andre Jones. And eventually, I'm going to have to offer up a double O to that young man, and he deserves it. I picked the wrong one. But guess what? I don't give a shit which one it is. One of them panned out. That's all I care about. And that's what they should be doing. Hey, we drafted a 5th rounder. We traded up to get one in the 5th round, and then we drafted another one in the 7th round. We threw a flyer at the 7th rounder. He turned out to be what we thought the 5th rounder was going to be. Cut the 5th rounder. Move forward with the 7th rounder. Continue to work with the 5th rounder on the practice squad. If somebody picks him up, oh well. Can't win them all. But don't water down the roster. Don't take away a guy that can help right now for a guy that can't. KJ Henry is less in that conversation than Braden Daniels, because you can put KJ Henry on all special teams if you want to. If you have to throw him in the game, you could throw him in the game. He might not be super effective, but you could throw him in. You can't even put Braden Daniels in the game right now. Anyway, defensive line, I got 10. So Chase Young, Montez Sweat, James Smith-Williams, and F.A. Obata to me are locks. Andre Jones Jr., Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, Fadarian Mathis, and John Ridgeway are all locks to me. So the only guy that I look at here and say he's not a lock is Casey Toohill. He's going to make the team. I feel like Casey Toohill's pretty much locked in as well. Like, as much as I like to try to dismiss Casey Toohill, and at every turn I'm looking to replace Casey Toohill, I got to stop. They really like Casey Toohill. There's some things that he does that they feel like really adds a ton of value to this team and this defense. I got to stop disrespecting Casey Toohill. These 10 guys are on the football team at defensive line. Now, if they want to add an 11th, that's fine, but they're not subtracting anybody from this group to add in KJ Henry. Either he's a part of this group and make it 11, or he's not here at all altogether and it's 10. That's how this is. Offensive line is different because they could take out Trenton Scott and insert Braden Daniels. I'd be pissed about that, right? Or they could take out, Tyler Larson and insert Braden Daniels and go about it that way. So there it could be, 10 or less. This one, it's not going to be less. It's either 10 or it's 11. On the offensive line, it could go as low as 9. They could not keep Trenton Scott, and they could get rid of Tyler Larson. I doubt they do that, though. Linebacker, Jamin Davis, Cody Barton, David Mayo, Khalil Hudson. Did you guys hear what Jack Del Rio said about Cody Barton today? We're going to talk about that a little bit later on today. 4 linebackers. This is the one position on the defense where, so this is the group here. There's nothing here to add. Now, I will say this. Remember I told you about a guy that they really liked throughout the draft process named Kyle Soley out of Arizona State that they didn't want to draft and they had no intentions of drafting, but they wanted him as a UDFA. And he just stayed close to home. I think he ended up signing with Arizona Cardinals, which made a ton of sense. He went to Arizona State. They gave him an opportunity and he took it. If he doesn't make their football team, and he might make their football team, but if he doesn't make their football team and they cut him, I could see Washington going after him as a free agent, right? And bringing him on board after these round of cuts. So just keep an eye on something like that happening because that's their move. That's their MO, is they go after guys that they like during the process. That's what they did with John Ridgeway. That's what they did with Tariq Castro Fields. That's what they did with Rashad Wildgoose. Guys that they liked doing during the draft period that they didn't get their hands on, that got cut and shook free, and they said, hey, that's a young guy that we believe in. Let's go get him. I could see them doing something like that with Kyle Soley. However, this is the group right here, these four. I don't see them adding anything here. No Milo Eifler this year. No Dejon Harris. None of that. This is the group of four right here. And I feel good about that. Cornerback. And really, you could lump these two groups in like I did with the defensive line and just call it, DBs. And you could just say 10. You don't even, because I honestly feel like that's what I should do because we're splitting hairs on what Quan Martin is. I've made a big deal out of CB5. Quan Martin could be CB5 if you want him to. Right? And they could not keep a fifth safety. And Christian Holmes could not make the team. Right? Like, instead of saying corner and safety and splitting them up, you could just say DB and say 9 or 10. That way, you don't have to be so literal with cornerback 5. Because, again, Quan Martin could be cornerback 5. Remember, when they put out the first, the unofficial DEPI, Quan Martin was listed as a corner. So, again, there's no guarantee that they keep a fifth corner. If they do, it could be Quan Martin and not Christian Holmes. So, again, they really like Christian Holmes. Let's go through this real quick. Emmanuel Forbes Jr., Kendall Fuller, Benjamin St. Juste, and Danny Johnson, all locks. We talked about that all summer. They're locks. The question was, who was going to step up and grab CB5? My money for a while was on Tariq Castro Fields. This is a guy that they went out, snagged last year, 6th-round pick by the San Francisco 49ers. They cut him. Washington snatched him up. They worked with him. He's on the active roster for a few games as a special teams player. So I figured this was the year he might take a leap. I thought he did some good things in camp for a little while. I thought he actually played well against the Cleveland Browns in the first preseason game. It was expecting him to get some looks in that Ravens game relatively early. Nah, clearly they didn't like what they saw in practice, maybe the joint practices. He didn't get in the game until the third quarter. So they don't love him right now. Christian Holmes played well against Cleveland, even though, again, these weren't PBUs. These were hits that led to drops. So I don't buy him as an actual corner, but they love him on special teams, and I think they're going to continue to work with him at the cornerback position. So I think Christian Holmes, it literally is. And remember, and I haven't lost this. This hasn't been lost on me. I haven't lost sight of the fact that last year they just said, nah, we good with 4 corners. They kept 4 corners last year. Now, again, remember, they ultimately went out. Remember, we were bitching last year, like, oh, my God, they did nothing at corner. How could they do this? And it bit us in the ass. It ultimately was one of the things that came back to bite us in our ass. And it's crazy because we drafted Emmanuel Forbes, and maybe Quan Martin develops because they're putting so much on his plate. And this has been my rationale for not jumping down Quan Martin's throat, is like, bro, they're doing the same thing they did to Percy Butler and Jamin Davis in their rookie seasons. They're throwing everything but the kitchen sink at this young man, and you're expecting him to just play fast? Yeah, right. They're throwing safety on this man. They're throwing nickel corner on this man. They're throwing boundary corner at this man. You think he's just going to come in here and learn this defense without a hitch and just get out there and play fast and not make mistakes? Come on, y'all. Y'all watch enough football to know better. You watch Quan Martin or Percy Butler. You watch Jamin Davis go through the same shit. Come on now. Y'all know better than that. But yet everybody wants this young man to just come in here and just start tearing shit up because he's a second-round pick. Anyway, they could look at him as another corner. But I feel like we're practically in the same spot we were in last year. We got 4 corners. Any way you slice it. If they think Quan Martin's a corner, and he may ultimately develop really nicely this year, and by the time we get to the midpoint of the season, Quan Martin's playing ball. That may happen. But as of right now, the way I see it, we're right where we were last year. We got 4 corners. So Christian Holmes, your 5th corner, I don't love it, but we'll see what I've said this. Maybe the 5th corner isn't on the roster right now. Just maybe. They haven't shown me the ability to go out and just pluck a dude, though. They tried it with Rashad Wildgoose, and for the life of me, I don't know why they keep trying to ram him down our throat. Like, they really want him to work. And I think it's because he's versatile enough to play inside and out. And I'm like, who gives a shit about versatility if you suck at both of them? Well, why would I care if you're versatile? If you can't do either one with any prowess, why do I care that you can do both if you suck at both of them equally? Where's the psychological sense in that? So we'll see what they do at corner. Safety, again, this could be 4, not 5, because Quan Martin could be considered a corner. And this group could be condensed to 9 instead of 10. Take Christian Holmes out, add Quan Martin to the cornerback position. You got 5 corners, 4 safeties, and that's your core group. They could take Quan Martin, make him cornerback 5, and they could keep Terrell Burgess as the 5th safety. This is where things get really dicey. Terrell Burgess goes out, plays his ass off tomorrow night or Saturday night. He already downed a punt inside the 2-yard line the other night, right? He goes out there, kicks ass on special teams, makes some plays on the defensive side of football. They really like Terrell Burgess. They keep him, say he's a core special teamer. We really like him. Take Quan Martin, make him CB5, and take Terrell Burgess and make him safety 5. And now you got 10 DBs again, but it's just a different look. That could happen. I doubt it, but it could happen, So we know Cam Curl, Derek Forrest, Percy Butler, and Jeremy Reeves are locks. Quan Martin is a lock. You just don't know if he's a corner or a safety. Does it even matter? No, it really doesn't. He could just be a DB. Who cares? He's on the team too. So 9 for sure is essentially what I'm telling you. 9 DBs for sure. Emmanuel Forbes Jr., Kendall Fuller, Benjamin St. Juste, Danny Johnson, Cam Curl, Derek Forrest, Percy Butler, Jeremy Reeves, Quan Martin, all locks to make this team. All right, so that's 9. Christian Holmes is the only guy that has to go out and bust his ass on Saturday night to ensure that he is here come Tuesday at 4:01 p.m. on August 29th. If he doesn't have a good showing on Saturday night, he could get cut. And again, it gets interesting, and this is why I say these final rosters, they can have ripple effects. If you cut Christian Holmes and just don't replace him, right? You don't add a Terrell Burgess, you don't add another corner, and you just got 9 in the defensive back room. Now that gives you the space to add an 11th defensive lineman and keep KJ Henry. Or it gives you the space to keep a Braden Daniels as an 11th offensive lineman. Like, these are the decisions that they're going to play around with. Ain't nobody taking Christian Holmes from you. I promise you. If you cut Christian Holmes, you can put him on the practice squad. I promise you, bro. He'll be safe with us. You don't have to keep him on the roster for fearing of losing him. He'll be here. Right? So that's the dilemma that they have, is they're going to play with these. Well, if we cut this guy, can we get him back? Again, that's for them to do, you know. And when you're invested, when you've been at practice every day, when you watch these guys, when there may be some things they see with Braden Daniels where they say, man, this guy could be really good. He just needs a little bit more time. And I understand that. I totally get that. What we've seen and what they've seen are two different things. And that's why I'm not going to absolutely kill them if they keep Braden Daniels. I don't care if they keep him. You just better not cut Trenton Scott at his expense. That's my problem because, again, I got short-term, goals here. My vision, I've already told you, I got tunnel vision, and I can't help it. And I don't run from the fact that I have tunnel vision. I'm not afraid to tell you I have tunnel vision. I want to win. As a wise man once said, wake your ass up. We got to win tomorrow. I'm just trying to win tomorrow. And then the next day after that, the next day, I'm just trying to stack as many tally marks in the left-hand column as I can. Give me the break. I'm trying to put it in the left-hand column. And when they start sorting them out at the end of the year, I just want to have enough bricks, enough tallies in the left-hand column that they say, hey, you get to play some bonus football. I'm sick of sitting on the sidelines while everybody else plays bonus football, and I got to watch as they get to have fun. So I'm not with the, developmental guy making the roster who can't help right now. So it'd be interesting to see what they do because Christian Holmes doesn't have to be here. Now, he's been a core special teamer. And again, that counts for something. Like you don't miss the special teamers until they're not here, and then you give up a big-ass punt return or a kickoff return, and you want to know why. Because you cut a guy like Christian Holmes. A lot of y'all don't be thinking like that. You just think, oh, he sucks at corner. Get rid of him. Yeah, get rid of him until you realize you just cut a, 4-teamer, right? He's on all 4 teams, and he's a fiend, and now he's not out there, and then you give up your first big kickoff of the season, and you're like, what's going on? Hey, you cut Christian Holmes, you cut this guy, and you cut this other fiend on special teams, and what did you think was going to happen? Nothing? You didn't think there were consequences from that? So remember, there's no Cam Sims anymore. That's a fiend right there. All right. Don't think All-Pro Revo is going to make every single tackle on special teams because he's not. All right. Now, you still got Percy Butler. He's a fiend on special teams. You still got other guys that can fill the void. But Christian Holmes was pretty damn good on special teams last year. Say what you want. All right. So you cut enough of these dudes, and special teams starts to suffer. So I think Christian Holmes, off the strength of special teams, if he can just show a little something at corner like he did against the Browns, I think he's going to be here. So 24 on defense, 10 defensive linemen, 4 linebackers, 5 corners, 5 safeties, 10 DBs. We call it out, recite it however you want. When it's all said and done, it totals out to 24 on the defensive side of the football. And then, this one is self-explanatory. You got 3 specialists: Tress Way, Joey Sly, and Cam Cheeseman. All right. Cameron better get his shit together. But 3 specialists, you put it all together, it's 53 total, 26 on the offensive side, 24 on the defensive side. That's a grand total of 50. You're adding your 3 specialists. That's your 53-man roster. Pick away at it. You guys have fun with that. Tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me what you would do instead. I'm all ears. This is going to be fascinating because, again, I told you that before we even got to camp that for the most part, 48 of the roster spots were spoken for. What did we already pretty much say? Like, we had this exercise, 3 weeks ago or so when I went through the roster and I said, 48, 49 roster spots were already spoken for, barring any kind of, of catastrophes. And we haven't really had any. So that's essentially what we're talking about. We're talking about a spot at receiver, a spot on the offensive line, a spot on the defensive line, and potentially a spot at corner. That's essentially what it's boiled down to for us. So it's not a lot that we're talking about here. Roster's pretty much set. So anyway, I want to talk about Ron Rivera spoke today. Jack Del Rio spoke today. So as you can see, I told you yesterday that they're starting to get into their season rhythm. So I wonder if that's what the cadence is going to be this year. Because at one point, this is how it used to be. On Wednesdays, we would hear from the head coach, quarterback, and the offensive coordinator. And then Thursdays was head coach and offensive coordinator, right? Or defensive coordinator, rather. Then it switched last year to Wednesdays. We heard from Ron and we heard from the starting quarterback, whomever the hell it was. And then Thursdays turned into coordinator day, and we didn't hear from Ron on coordinator day. And then we would hear from Ron again on Fridays, especially on the home games. Sometimes he would do a little intimate joint with, the ones that he liked when they had a road trip. He'd get those guys, maybe 4 or 5 of them together, sit in front of the podium and take a couple of questions and then get out of there. And then sometimes you would hear from the special teams coach on Friday every now and again. But that was the rhythm of the week. We'll see if they go back to that, or if this is going to be how they do it, where we hear from EB and Ron and Sam on Wednesdays, and then you hear from Jack on Thursdays, and maybe you'll hear from Ron and Jack on Thursdays, or maybe just Jack, and then Fridays is whatever, right? So we'll see how they decide to do it. But anyway, we heard from Eric Bieniemy yesterday. We already spoke about that. And then today we heard from Ron and Jack. So let's start with Ron. Again, he gave a rundown of the injuries, and he dodged a couple yesterday because it was pre-practice. He's done his press conference. I think he's done this intentionally, by the way, pre-practice, so that if a guy wasn't out there, you couldn't ask him about it because he's already done his presser. So Dax wasn't out there yesterday, and Sam Cosmi left practice early yesterday, and so those were questions that were lobbed at him at the very beginning of today's presser. And so Dax has a groin. This could be everything, or it could be nothing. If this is a significant injury, and I told you I've had a groin injury before, and that shit doesn't, and again, there's severities to this. You can literally pull your groin off the bone, right? So my shit wasn't anywhere near that severe, right? It was just a strain. But anytime you tried to open up your gate, it's not happening, bro. Not without significant pain. So if he's in that state, and my shit didn't heal up until the season was over. And so if that's the state that he's in, and you're in training camp, or you're in the final week of the preseason, rather, he might be placed on IR. And if he's placed on IR, that opens the door for Kazmir Allen. Now all you got to do is just not vomit all over yourself in the third preseason game, and you're on the roster, bro. So we'll see, and if that's the case and they keep 6, now you can keep a Braden Daniels and you don't have to feel bad about it. Now you can keep a KJ Henry and you don't have to feel bad about it. And it doesn't have to come at the expense of a guy that should be here. So that's something to keep an eye on, because it didn't sound like Ron didn't dismiss it like he did Jonathan Allen's plantar fasciitis. He didn't just say, oh, it's a little groin, he'll be fine. He didn't just term it like that. He was like, yeah, you had a setback. Okay. Interesting. So if he doesn't play in the third preseason game, I could see them. And I think they're going to be patient with this. And they should. Because what if something happens to Kazmir Allen in the third preseason game? Then you need Dax Milne all of a sudden. Right? So I think he's going to be patient with this just to see. And if he comes out of there no worse for the wear, then they could probably put Dax Milne on IR if they so choose, and know that they're going to keep Kazmir Allen. But we'll see what happens. Anyway, so he talked about all the injuries. He talked about Chase. He's supposed to be getting that evaluation done tomorrow, right? So we'll know if he's able to resume physical contact or not. Again, he's got time. Even if they say, nah, he needs a little bit more time, they'll reevaluate him next week. And then if they say, no, he needs more time, they'll reevaluate him the week after that. This is why I'm not tripping about him. I'm not tripping about Logan Thomas. They got 3 weeks, essentially. All right. The rest of this week, all of next week, and then the whole of the next week after that, which is the game week, to get ready to play. Now, Chase is a neck. You just don't know when, you're going to have everything firing like it's supposed to. When nerves are involved, all bets are off because you have no idea when those nerves are going to start firing like they're supposed to again. So we'll see with Chase, but Logan will definitely be out there. Jonathan Allen will definitely be out there. Terry, don't know. You know, that's a dicey one there. So, and Ron pretty much said as much. So, but the biggest takeaway from Ron's press conference though was his praise for Ricky Stromberg, and I felt like he was over the top in his praise of Ricky Stromberg. But I've heard from multiple sources, John Keim and guys that are out there who said, look, Ricky's taken massive strides at guard in particular, right? We knew he could play center. That was his position of choice in college for the most part. He did play a little bit of guard at Arkansas, but really he was a center. But he's really gotten better. And I watched the game and I went back and I said, man, Rick, and even going back to the Cleveland game, Ricky did some good shit, man. I was like, Ricky's holding his own. So they were impressed with him in the joint practices with the Ravens. He showed well in the game again, and they've been really impressed with some of the strides he's made as a guard to the point now where not only is he going to make the roster, he's going to always make the roster. He was never in danger of getting cut, but he may actually be on the active roster on game days because the prevailing thought was we can't keep Tyler Larson, Ricky Stromberg, and Nick Gates, who are all primary centers, on the roster. Like they've even thrown Larson out there at guard, but Larson's he's a center, right? Like they really don't want to put him in at guard if they don't have to. And really they're in their mind, they're like, he's like break in case of an emergency is Larson at guard. They really have him there as the primary backup at center. So if anything happens to Gates, Larson goes in, right? I think Stromberg would leapfrog Tyler Larson should you have a pinch in a game where multiple guards go down. I think it would first go Chris Paul in first if anything happens. And then if something else happens, Stromberg goes in, not Larson, right? Whereas at center, if anything happens, Larson goes in immediately. And then if something else happens, Stromberg goes in. And I think that's what they want. They want Stromberg active on game days, but he can't be if he can't play guard. Because then you have to bring somebody else up that can play guard. So Ron talked about him and said, look, he's doing a phenomenal job. He's everything that we thought he was going to be. I was like, Ron, really? Look at me, man. Look at me, man. You can't sit here and try to tell me he's everything you thought he was going to be. Because if that was the case, he'd be starting. You drafted him in day 2 of the draft. And you went out and signed Nick Gates. And you gave Nick Gates the starting job right out of the gate. There was never a competition. So if there was any hope of Ricky ever being the starting center in his rookie season, that was pretty much dashed when you signed Nick Gates. So again, I struggle with that if you really thought he could come in here and start. But I think they have been impressed with what he's been able to do at guard. And that's kind of what Ron was trying to convey, is that they didn't think he would be this good at guard. So that's good to know. And we'll see if he continues to develop at that position. And there's value in him being able to play multiple positions. So there you go. Jack, on the other hand, he spoke about Quan Martin in particular. And Jack was really comfy today. Old JDR was really comfortable today at his presser. You know, I got a soft spot for Jack when he's talking ball. And so Jack today really talked a ton about Cody Barton and Quan Martin in particular. Those were the two players that the media really was fascinated with. Just the linebacker position, because he talked about Jamin Davis too. And he was like, yo, Jamin's doing a fantastic job. Really like what he's doing and how he's playing and the confidence level he's playing with. We expect big things from Jamin. He said that before. So that's not new. And him and Jamin seem to have this weird relationship because Jack's been on him really hard. since his rookie season. So I always kind of just move that to the side because I'm like, y'all got some weird shit going on over there. So I'm gonna just let that be what it is. I'm focused on Cody Barton and Quan Martin. So Cody Barton, Jack went over the top with his praise of Cody Barton. I'm like, we watching the same games and stuff. So here's the thing. I've been very adamant with you guys about Cody Barton's aggressiveness. I said, look, the thing I love with Cody Barton is he's super aggressive. Something we haven't had here in a long time at the linebacker position. Even Jamin Davis isn't super aggressive. Like Cody Barton's hyper aggressive attack. He's David Mayo. That's the one guy that attacks the line of scrimmage against the run like nobody's been. David Mayo, go watch David Mayo on a run play. He doesn't give a shit. The first crease he sees, he's hitting that bitch. I love it because we don't get that from Jamin Davis. We never got that from Cole Holcomb. And even though these guys can run, you don't see it because they don't attack the line of scrimmage. Well, Cody Barton does. Jack was excited when they got him because he was a much bigger linebacker because we know Cole wasn't the biggest guy in the world. Cole was probably 235 pounds or so. Cody Barton's a sturdy 245, right? He's a big dude. So they like that about him. He's still athletic, even though he's not as fast as Cole. And then he's aggressive. He attacks downhill. Now, I told you with that attacking downhill, that's cool when you attack downhill and you get to the ball carrier. He's yet to do that as far as I'm concerned. Now, he's run behind plays, which is a no-no if you don't make the play, and he didn't. But I can respect the fact that he's attacking the line of scrimmage because I watched John Bostic strife, wait till the center comes off of the double team, waits till the guard comes off the double team, and all of a sudden he wants to get brolic now. And now the double team comes off, gets to him at the second level, and now it's a 6-yard run. And I'm like, bro, you saw it was a run the whole time. Why are you sitting here strifing, and chopping grass in space and then attacking? What's the psychological sense behind that? It's the same shit he did when Jared Goff ran in the football. I'm in no man's land. What do I do? I'm not covering the tight end, but I'm not going after the quarterback. What do I do? And then Jared Goff's like, I'm going to run it in. He's like, okay, go ahead. I've watched him do that for years. I've watched Cole Holcomb be tentative. I've watched Jamin Davis be tentative. So watching Cody Barton attack the line of scrimmage is a breath of fresh air. Jack Del Rio talked about his aggressiveness in attacking the line of scrimmage. So that's not something that I feel like is far-fetched. What did seem a little bit over the top was the fact that he kept talking about what a great job he's doing and, how he's come in and he's really, assimilated and he's still got some work to do, but they really like how he's come in and he's been a force on this defense and he's playing extremely well. And I'm like, Jack, are we watching the same preseason games? This is the same dude that was allowing Charlie Kohler to cook him up the damn seam on a simple seam ball in cover 2. We watching the same game? This is the same dude that took the wrong lane on a simple gun run to the left to a wide receiver and gave up like a 18-yard run. We watching the same shit because I'm not seeing this dominance that you're referring to. We watching the same linebacker play. And I know you got a different set of eyes and it's keen because you played the position. I'm just telling you, I haven't seen it. And he went on and on about Cody Barton and how, they're lucky to have him and they feel really good about what he's doing. Okay, I hope you're trying to speak this into existence. I'm all about positivity. So, hey, go right ahead, knock yourself out. I hope you know what you're talking about. And I want to be able to come back and say, Jack knew all along. That'd be great. But right now, my confidence is low, very low. Okay, but we'll see what happens. I said this when we signed him. I wasn't a fan, but I said, I'm going to give it a chance. He's here already. No need in complaining about it now. He's a part of the family. I'm going to root for him like hell. I hope it works out. I feel the exact same way now because he hasn't shown me anything. So I still look at him like, I don't know if this was the right thing to do, but we'll see what happens. Then he talked about Quan Martin, and I loved everything he said about Quan. Now, he was a little bit over the top with Quan as well, but I understand being over the top with a rookie. You want to build their confidence, And as I told you, they've thrown a lot at Quan. And that's the thing when I talk to people and they want to chastise Quan. Oh, he was trash. He gave this up. He did this. He did. I'm like, dude, do you understand what they're asking Quan Martin to do right now? His brain is on overload. So you know the Zay Flowers touchdown, the first drive of the game against the Ravens. That was a complete bust. That wasn't nothing but a simple boot, backside, shallow cross. You come over and they got mixed up. Quan Martin was on the outside, or Emmanuel Forbes was on the outside. Quan Martin was on the inside, and he was supposed to come and switch that, right? And they both went with the same guy. And it was Quan Martin. They didn't communicate. And that's what Jack said. Like, they didn't communicate. Because all they had to do was communicate. And he could have told Forbes, hey, if this dude cross your face, I got him. You stay outside. I'll take him. If he cross your face, which means he's coming towards the middle of the field where I'm already at, you stay outside. I'll take him. Because this dude is already coming to the outside where you at, right? So you just stay there. I'm going to take this dude if he cross your face, and that's how we gonna switch it off. They didn't communicate. They just pointed and acted like they've been playing together for 7 years, and then the shit happens, and they both run with the same dude. Zay Flowers runs outside. There's nobody around, busted coverage. And then to make matters worse, Quan Martin comes over, gives this half-hearted attempt at a tackle. He just cuts back. Quan Martin acts like we playing two-hand tag. Still wouldn't have had him because he only touched him with one hand, and he scored a touchdown. And so a lot of people were killing Quan Martin for that. And these mistakes happen. And Jack said one thing about Quan that they've learned is he don't make the same mistake twice. And so it was a teachable moment. These are the types of things you want to have happen in the preseason because they can learn from it. Then it doesn't happen. I've seen that. And Jack said, like, he expects the next time that he sees this, oh, I know what's going on. I know what to do because we've seen this already. We've gone through this already. And that's what you want. That's what the preseason is for. Not for killing players and filleting guys on Twitter and making them feel like shit, which is what people seem to take pride and have fun at doing. I don't really understand the psychological sense in that. But again, that's not me. So have at it. But Jack was like, look, we put a lot on this dude's plate. We're asking him to do a lot. Mistakes are going to happen, but he doesn't make the same mistake twice. We like where he is in his development. This guy is going to be a really good football player for us. We feel really good about the things that he's done so far and what he's going to do in the future. We feel like this guy's going to be a great addition to this defense. I was like, okay. And I feel the same way. I've been in Quan Martin's corner since he was selected in the second round. I feel like they've put a lot on him. And, you know, I said the same thing with Percy Butler. I said the same thing with Jamin Davis. They do this as a way to find out what can you retain. You know, they did the same thing to Cam Curl, and he was able to retain all of that and go out and play well. Not everybody's going to be Cam Curl, right? Not everybody's going to have that high of an IQ, process everything, and still be able to play fast while processing everything that they've put on your plate. That slows most guys down. So Cam Curl is an outlier. But that's their philosophy is, hey, let's put everything on your plate and just see how you handle it. And most guys are going to be slowed down by that. So it was good to hear Jack talk about, you know, specific players because usually he doesn't get into specifics. He'll just throw a blanket over it. Like, oh, we're all out here working. Like, that's, you know, the kind of thing that is. So for him to talk specifically about a guy, he was in a good mood. But once the season starts, he ain't doing that shit. So anyway, Jack also talked about his time in Jacksonville where he had a late round guy make the team because, and this is one of those Jackisms where he kind of throws a blanket over it. So, you know, they talked about Andre Jones and how he's playing really well. And Jack was like, yeah, that's cool. But, you know, everybody out here playing well. And I really don't root for anybody to make the roster. You know, this is football. You get an opportunity. I don't really care. You know, first round pick, fifth round pick, seventh round pick, undrafted. If you can play ball and you get an opportunity, take advantage of your opportunities. And if you take advantage of them enough, you're going to end up on the roster. That's his philosophy, right? That's his philosophical approach. Not everybody is like that, by the way. Not everybody believes in giving the undrafted guy an opportunity, to try to make the football team. Most people have egos. I want my draft picks to make the football team, so I'm going to give him as many opportunities as he can get to make the football team. But Jack's like, look, we had a guy in Jacksonville, small school guy, undrafted, wasn't supposed to make the team. He was so good on special teams. We had to find a roster spot for this guy. He was too good to keep off the roster. And, if you come in and you play well and you show improve, there's a roster spot for you. And Andre Jones has done that. And we'll see what happens with some of these other guys, So he talked about that as well. Again, my biggest thing with these players is when you take multiple guys at the same position, as long as one of them hits, I really don't give a shit. I wanted it to be KJ Henry. It's Andre Jones. I don't give a shit. And I just want you to think about it this way. Andre Jones looks like the kind of guy that they like. Think about it. What is Chase Young? Tall, long arms, rangy, athletic. What is Montez Sweat? Tall, athletic, rangy. They all look the same, okay? KJ Henry doesn't look like Montez Sweat or Chase Young or Andre Jones. Chase Young 6'5", Montez Sweat 6'6", Andre Jones is 6'5". KJ Henry is what, 6'2", maybe? Maybe? Like, he doesn't look like those guys. F.A. Obata's probably like 6'4". KJ Henry looks more like Casey Toohill. What's Casey Toohill? He looks like he's about 6'2", 6'3". I'm gonna put him at 6'2". Let's check and see how tall Casey Toohill is. Let's see. F.A. is 6'6", so he looks like the rest of these guys, right? Chase Young 6'5", as I said already. Andre Jones is 6'5", as I said already. Let's see where Casey Toohill is. William Bradley King is 6'3", so again, he doesn't kind of fit that mold of what they're really looking for as an edge rusher. I told you I think that Casey Toohill is 6'2", and I think KJ Henry's 6'2" too, as well. Let's see. KJ Henry is 6'4", so they have him listed at 6'4". I don't think he's 6'4", but he's 6'4". If he's 6'4", that's cool. Let me see. Let me look and find where they have Casey Toohill. Casey Toohill is listed at 6'5". I did not think he was that tall. I want to see a picture of him standing next to somebody like Sweat and see how big he looks. I don't think he's 6'5", but he could be. Casey's not a small dude though. So he's 6'5". They got him listed at 6'5", and they got KJ listed at 6'4". But I can tell you right now, that Andre Jones looks a legit 6'5". Like, you look at him and he looks 6'5". He looks like he's got about a 78 inch or 78-inch wingspan. He looks like Sweat. He looks like Young. I don't think KJ Henry, he's got more of a squatty frame to me. They say he's 6'4", so if they say he's 6'4", he's 6'4". Anyway, I digress. So let's get to the comment section, and then we'll get out of here. Alan Nudis, stand up. You are the newest member of the MOBB, Alan Nudis. Welcome to the squad, mob. Y'all know what to do. I think we did this earlier, but we'll do it again. Yeah, welcome Alan Nudis to the squad. Looking forward to chopping it up with you in the future. Alan Nudis, welcome to the squad. Future millionaire, stand up. You are in the building. You are the newest member of the MOBB mob. Y'all know what to do. Open your arms extremely wide and welcome future millionaire to the squad. So glad to have you on board. Look forward to chopping it up with you. Future millionaire, welcome to the squad. AfroCat2136. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. AfroCat2136 writes, "What up, Lou? What's up, AfroCat? Our young guys, year 1, 2, and 3, about to blow some shit up. Love Forbes' energy. Dude radiates swag. Sam primed to ignite this offense. I love it too." And I feel like that's kind of what I was alluding to earlier when I said we're so excited about a lot of these guys that we've watched as puppies grow up. And now they went from barking, but just get out of here. You might kick them in the nose or something, to now they ready to bite something, right? They ready to go off. And what I'm telling you is, if Ron and company aren't here, and again, if you're good, it doesn't matter who's here. The next regime comes in. If you're good, they're going to keep you. They're not going to get rid of everybody because they don't want any parts to do with players from the last regime. If you're good, they're going to keep you. But there's some guys that may be on the fence, that may be on the fringe, that we think are good, that need to be here, that they may come in and say, nah, we good, And there are a number of guys that would fit into that category should you bring in new management. And so you got to be careful with that. That's why I'm a little bit apprehensive to just move on from everybody and clean house, is because I want guys to clearly define their roles so that when the next group comes in here, they'll say, nah, this guy's a part of the foundation. This guy's a part of the foundation, and add to that instead of, blowing it up and only taking a few pieces and then, turning over the whole roster. That's frustrating because it took us 4 years to get to where we are now. Do you really want to start over again? Now if Sam's good, that alleviates the starting over process, because no matter who's here, if Sam proves that he's the quarterback and that he can get the job done, then that takes away the part of just sucking for no reason. Because if you got a quarterback, you're going to be in ball games. So again, Sam is really the centerpiece of all of this. If he's good, we're going to have a shot, no matter who's here as the GM, head coach, et cetera, et cetera. But yes, a lot of these first, second, and third year guys are ready. Like Percy Butler, I think he's going to contribute. I've told you guys this. I think he's going to be a big contributor, may even be a little bit bigger than Quan Martin in the first year. But now understand, Quan Martin may have a different role than a Percy Butler. I think Percy's more of a true safety, whereas Quan, they view him, and remember when Percy was coming out, they said the same thing about him. He can play the slot, we can blitz him. They never said he could play outside though. Like Quan, they got Quan playing boundary, nickel, high single free, single high free safety. They got him playing in the box. They got him doing everything. They putting everything on his plate. But primarily they look at him as a nickel, so he should be able to play inside, and if in a pinch can go outside and play as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing these young guys get opportunities. Video channel. Stand up. You know what it is. We in the building. Mob, been a member for a month. My guy Video Channel writes, "Sup, Lou? I really want to hold on to Dax. Too good of a wide receiver to straight up cut. Dax has a future in this league." As much as I like Dax as a receiver, he really hasn't done a whole hell of a lot to garner the favor that you would have had he made more plays. In the regular season, Dax's claim to fame is the touchdown pass he caught against Minnesota. Like, that's pretty much it. He's had some moments in the preseason, like last year in particular. He had a nice catch this preseason against Cleveland, but he hasn't really done much. But I too think he can play in this league. He's not Trey Quinn, right? I legitimately think Trey or Dax Milne can play. So I think he could help here. So I would like to see him get an opportunity. But, it's a numbers game. We'll see what happens. This injury that he sustained couldn't have come at a worse time. Could not have come at a worse time. Miss Perry, stand up. We in the building. Been a member for 23 months, damn near 2 years. My girl, Miss Perry, writes, like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Y'all heard the woman. Make it happen. Almost 480 of y'all out there. Turn on that notification bell and hit the like button. We should be over 200 likes. All right. Appreciate the public service announcement, Miss Perry. Christopher McLaughlin, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy Chris writes, hey Lou, hope all is well with you and the family. Tough question. What player or position or player would you be focusing on adding to the practice squad after the 53-man roster is finalized from another team, and why? Right now, my primary focus would probably be tight end, because Brandon Dillon is here. Nah, I'm good on Brandon Dillon. I think there was one more dude here that they just brought not too long. Nah, I'm good. Like, none of those dudes moved the needle for me. And with Logan's, history the last 2 years in particular, it's just not a good place to be in. You're pretty much down to John Bates and Cole Turner if anything happens to Logan Thomas, right? So I think tight end would be a position in particular that I'd be looking. But again, keep in mind, most players that get cut from the team that they're on, unless they feel like they should have made the team and they're really in their feelings, generally, I'm just going to stay with the team that I've been in camp with the entire offseason or the entire summer, because they know me. I know them. I know the coaching staff. I know what to expect. And if I'm going to get a chance, it's more likely than not going to come with this group that has seen me play, has watched me work. I have a rapport with them. So unless you're going to take a guy from another team and add him to your active roster, most guys aren't leaving their respective team to go on somebody else's practice squad. Now, I've seen players do that, but that's because they've been in their feelings. They felt like they should have made the team. They're pissed off. They don't want to stay. They'd rather go somewhere else because they're mad. And sometimes you got to be able to separate, your feelings from what's the best for you at that moment. And you're not going to get a lot of guys that are going to, up and leave, unless like that team has 4 tight ends and they're all nice. And you're like, bro, there's no way I'm cracking this roster at all. If somebody goes down, they got 3 other dudes, it ain't no way. And you look at Washington's situation and they only got 3 guys. Oh, I could go over there to their practice squad, because if one guy goes down, I'm up. So I think tight end would be the position. Linebacker is a sneaky one, but I don't really see them doing much at linebacker. I think the real position is tight end, and the other one, very quietly, and we talked about this already, is cornerback. But if they view Quan Martin as a corner, then there's nothing to see here. They got 5. They're not tripping. They're good. So that's a sneaky one. I think tight end is the easy one. Video channel. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB video channel. Writes, Khalid should start over Jamin, but this staff cannot admit a mistake. I can't say that because Khalid hasn't flashed this preseason. Have you seen him flash? Like, if Khalid, so here's the thing. All offseason last year, we heard about Derek Force and how well he was playing and how fast he was moving, right? We get to the preseason and Derek Force was flying around, and we noticed him. So much so that they got to week 1 and he ended up playing like really meaningful snaps. And you could argue defensively, he was the player of the game, probably along with Daron Payne. He was the player of the game. He had the forced fumble that forced the missed field goal. He had the pass breakup in the back of the end zone on the 3rd down that forced the field goal. And then he had the game-clinching interception. He was everywhere in that week 1 win against Jacksonville last year. We haven't seen anything really from Khalid Hudson in the preseason. Have you noticed him? Has there been a wow play from Khalid Hudson where you go, okay, I see Khalid? Have you seen one of those in the first 2 games? I haven't. So I don't think you can say he should be starting over Jamin. it's good to know that when pressed into action, the 2 times that he's been pressed into action, whether you go back 2 years against Seattle or you go to last year against Dallas in Week 18, he showed well in those instances. That's what I'm excited about. But I still want to see Jamin. I still want to see if Jamin can continue to develop, if they can continue to try to get the most out of Jamin. You know, we're at a fork in the road with Jamin now, right? This is year 3. They got to figure out if they're going to pick up the 5th-year option on him or not. This is the year you figure it out. Either Jamin's going to ball out of his brains this year, or you're going to say, think we're going to decline, and you prove it to us in your final year of your rookie contract. So we'll see what happens with Jamin. Christopher McLaughlin, my guy Chris, thank you for the super chat. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. My guy Chris writes, hey Lou, 2 questions. What are your reasonable expectations for Jamin Davis and Cody Barton this year and the linebackers? Also, how much of a difference are you expecting with punt return this year in games and why? So the linebacker position, Jamin Davis and Cody Barton in particular, but the linebacker position as a whole, I'm intrigued by that position in particular because when you got, like, our defensive linemen are dogs up front. Like, literally, when I tell you, you can say what you want about Chase as a pass rusher. Don't you dare speak on Chase's name as a run defender. Same with Montez Sweat. And they may not impact the game as pass rushers some games, but damn if they ain't stopping the run. Damn if they not setting a physical edge and being menaces in the run game. Like, our run defense has a chance to be special if we get anything out of the damn linebackers. And so what I'm basically looking for from these backers is to take advantage of a defensive front in front of you featuring 4 first-round picks that are dangerous against the run, that are dangerous football players in general. Take advantage of that and play off of those dudes and make plays. You are supposed to be eating in this defensive scheme behind those 4 dogs up front. All right, so I'm really looking for them to attack. Now, I'm still kind of skeptical as to what we're going to get in pass coverage out of both of them. We've been hearing Jamin Davis in pass coverage doing this and doing that. And Jamin had a pick today in practice. So Jamin had another pick today in practice. I've heard that, but I ain't seen it, you know. And every time I look at Jamin, he's a step slow in coverage, you know. I mean, he's not getting cooked, but he ain't there to break up a pass. He's there to make the tackle after a 7-yard gain, or he's there to push a dude out of bounds after he's caught it and turned up the field for a gain of 8. Cody Barton, I did see a pass breakup from him in the Ravens game. He was right there. I thought the tight end could have caught it. Thought he just dropped it, but Cody was right there. He was on his back pretty much. So I wasn't mad at that, but I didn't love his coverage up the seam against Charlie Kohler, you know. So anyway, I said all of that to say this. I'm expecting the linebackers to be aggressive in the run game. I want our run defense to be airtight. And I don't want us to have to go to the Cinco package to do it. I want us, if we come out in our base 4-2-5 look, I want us to be able to stop the run consistently unless the other team comes out in a big, heavy formation. Like, I want us to be able to stop the run. It didn't look like we could do that against the Browns. You know, I want us to be able to stop the run with our base personnel out there if the other team isn't threatening us with a big package. And if they're doing that, then we have to adjust accordingly. But if they come out in 11 personnel, they shouldn't be running the ball down our throats. If they come out in 12 personnel, we should still be able to stop the run out of our base front. And I want to see, and those linebackers are the key to that. Our D-line is going to do their job. It's all about the linebackers getting in the proper fits, attacking downhill, being aggressive. If a run's supposed to get 4 or 5, so be it. They blocked it up well. They caught us in a look and they blocked it up well. Good. Okay, they got us. It's going to happen. What I don't want is for a run that should only get a yard or two to get 4 or 5 yards because you weren't aggressive enough in attacking the line of scrimmage. And I've watched that for too many years here. So That's what I'm looking for. And it'd be nice for them to be, Cody Barton had like 3 picks last year. It'd be nice if Cody Barton brings some of that over here. We don't really get a lot of production from an interception standpoint out of our linebackers. It'd be nice if he brought a little bit of that flavor over here, but I'm not counting on it. But it'd be nice. Does Jamin Davis have a career interception? I don't think he does. So it'd be nice if he brought a little bit of that over here, but I'm not holding my breath. As far as the punt return position is concerned, look, if you look across the league at punt returns, it's not what it used to be. And I think some of that is the fact that you just don't have dynamic return men anymore. These punters have gotten so good at angling punts, getting a ton of hang time. Like, there's an art to kicking now that didn't exist 10, 15 years ago. It's just different now. These kickers are so advanced. They've got all these analytics. They figure out creative ways to kick the ball, make it tough for you to return it, put hang time on it so that guys are bearing down on you. You don't see a lot of returns in the punt game for touchdowns, really returns in general, but specifically punt returns. You don't see a lot of those. But if you have a dynamic guy back there, you can get something out of your return game. And so, Kaz Allen can be that. But again, we'll see. My biggest thing, and I know this sounds old man, get off my lawn, and I don't care. Especially now that we might actually have a real offense. When you had Taylor Heineke or, Alex Smith or Carson Wentz, and you weren't really sure what the hell you were going to have on offense, you want more dynamic ability back there because you want shorter fields to try to help the offense out. Now I'm like, just catch the damn ball. Just make sure that the offense is taking the field. You know what I really would like? For us to not have a bunch of special teams penalties like we had last year. There were times where Dax Milne would field a punt and return it 4 yards, and then you would have a holding penalty, and all of a sudden we were supposed to be starting at our own 48, and instead now we're starting at our own 34-yard line. And you're like, that's 14 yards of field position. That's hidden yardage, right? Or one time Dax had like an 11-yard return, and we were almost at midfield. And then it was a block in the back. And instead of us starting at our, at basically midfield, we're starting at our own 29-yard line. You're like, what the F, bro? What? Like, you can't do that. That's what I really don't want to see. It was a lot of hidden yardage that did not benefit us last year. A lot of, penalties on punt returns that killed us. We can't have that this year, no matter who's back there. But I'd love to see a spark be given to the special teams unit. We haven't had that since DeAndre Carter in 2021. It'd be nice to every time a guy touches it, you never know what could happen. And that's what Casimir Allen brings. But we'll see if they decide to go in that direction or not. I'm afraid that at some point, and I don't want to speak it into existence, I'm just afraid Casimir may not be what we want him to be. I'll just say that. Independent Outsider. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, 1, did Commanders overplay McLaurin last game? No. It was preseason. 2, I slept on Forbes and Howell, but no more. Forbes filled out quick. Howell is poised. Forbes didn't fill out quick. He's the same size he was when he probably got here. Maybe he put on 5 pounds or so. He's the same skinny kid that you saw coming out of Mississippi State. He's just, what you failed to realize, which is a lot of people, is that he's a dog. If you watch tape, like Jack said, that's what we saw on tape. We just needed him to confirm it, and he has. Ron said, that's not anything different than what we saw on tape. I've been telling y'all that, like, he's physical. William Jackson is like 2 times his size. Of course, I'm being facetious. But William Jackson is probably 30 to 40 pounds heavier than Emmanuel Forbes Jr. And half the heart, wants no part of the smoke, doesn't want to come up and hit anybody. That's not what we're dealing with anymore. You know, Jack talked about that. Sometimes with a corner, sometimes you got to crack replace. You got to come out there and you got to be the guy that replaces the person that got cracked. They come down and the receiver cracks down on that edge. Now you have to replace that edge, right? They crack down on him to set an edge. Now you got to come up in run support and you got to be the edge setter. Well, Emmanuel Forbes has shown that. He can come down and be that crack replace and make a damn tackle. And we didn't have that last year, specifically with William Jackson III, the last 2 years with William Jackson III. So he's shown what he was showing on tape at Mississippi State. As for Sam Howell, again, as you said, you're an independent outsider, so you had no idea what was going on. If you hadn't watched him at North Carolina, then you wouldn't have had a clue. But if you watched him at UNC, you couple that with what he did in the preseason last year, then what he did in the Dallas game, week 18, you could have seen this coming. But again, I wouldn't expect that from someone on the outside looking in, and I'm not mad at you for not knowing. No, we didn't overplay Terry McLaurin. Yeah, at the end of first of all, I did not want to see the offense again. That's on the defense. I was selfish in not wanting to see them. I wanted Sam's night to be over. He had led us on 2 scoring drives already out of the 3 that he had played. I was fine. I did not need to see him go back out there. The defense gave it up in 15 seconds. You know, most of it was Rashad Wildgoose. Whatever. Now you get a chance to see the offense, and in particular, Sam, in a 2-minute situation, which is invaluable. You try to simulate this in practice, but you can't. And as I've said numerous times, the only way to get better at football is to actually play football. Practice is great, and they tell you practice makes perfect, and it helps a lot. But game situations make you better. That's what makes you perfect. Tom Brady gets better because he's done it over and over and over again in game situations, right? The reps that he's gotten in games over the years has built up this level of confidence that, hey, I can do this at any point, right? That's what you need. And so you can't turn down an opportunity to get a 2-minute drill executed in a real game situation where you don't have on a yellow jersey and the team can't touch you. This is real. Let's see how you handle it. Because he's going to have 2-minute situations in the regular season. And we need him to handle it. So no, Terry McLaurin should have been out there. Jahan Dotson should have been out there. Curtis Samuel should have been out there. De'Ami Brown should have been out there. Antonio Gibson, Brian Robinson should have been out there. And they were. And it's football. These things happen. I don't feel any type of way about it. I'm upset that it happened, but it's football. You know, that could have happened on the first play of the regular season. Like, I'd rather it happen now than in week 1 against Arizona, to where we know he's going to miss 3 or 4 games. He may not miss any games. He may only miss 1 game. So if it was going to happen, now's the time. If you want to look at it glass half full. Thank you for that, independent outsider. DC Dude, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. DC Dude writes, I, the real Telly, what's up, man? Says, agree with every roster spot. One curveball could be label Alex Arma as a tight end, keep running back Jonathan Williams, and release Tuhill. So it really doesn't matter where you put Alex Arma, unless you're going, same thing that you just referenced. And I even did that with another position where I said you could take Quan Martin, not list him as a safety, but rather as a corner. And that frees up a corner safety spot if you want to go with 10 DBs, right? Don't keep Christian Holmes. Add Quan Martin to the cornerback room, and then you could add a guy like Terrell Burgess as your, 5th and final safety, give you 10 DBs. Like, you could see a ripple effect like that. And that's kind of what you're alluding to. If you take Alex Arma and make him a tight end instead of a running back, and you keep Jonathan Williams. And again, if you're going to do that, obviously you have to shave off some fat, trim off some fat from somewhere else, your suggestion would be edge rusher and Casey Toohill. They're not cutting Casey Toohill, bro. I can tell you that right now. They are not cutting Casey Toohill. They really, 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 really like Casey Toohill a lot. So Casey Toohill is going to be here. If anything happens at defensive end, other than what we talked about, unless it's like adding KJ Henry, which isn't a surprise if they do that and they go with 11. If anything happens different than what we talked about tonight, that's a surprise. That's a surprise. If Casey Toohill gets cut, that is a surprise. If F.A. Obata gets cut, that is a surprise. If Andre Jones Jr. doesn't make the roster, that is a surprise. All of those seem like locks at this point. The only caveat at edge rusher right now, or the defensive line in particular, is does KJ Henry make this team or not? I say no right now. They may keep him anyway. We'll see. Jado, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Jado writes, "Sup, Lou? Sup, Jay? When do you think Terry will be ready?" My guess is week 2 against Denver. Like, I already told you how I thought this was going to play out. Keep him off of his feet this week. You're not going to see him. You don't have practice next week. He'll be in here for treatment every day next week, trying to get his toe where it needs to be. Wednesday, he won't practice. The first injury report will be released Wednesday. That will also be the very first week in the return of the Command News Nightly, or whatever the hell the name of the show is. I can't even think of my own shit right now. It's been so long, but that'll be back that week, right? And so I think it is Command News News Nightly, because it's CNN. So yes, that's what it is. Command News Nightly. And so, we'll be all over that shit, because, every night we talk about, injuries and things of that nature. And we go through all of that stuff for both teams. You know how it is. If you're just new joining up, Command News Nightly is where you need to be every single night. And that'll be back that first week, and we'll be all over it. But Wednesday, he won't practice. Thursday, he's not going to practice. Friday, he might be limited, or he probably won't practice. We'll get to the game on Sunday, and it'll get all the way up until game day. He'll test it out, or they'll just say, nah, Terry's out on Friday. They'll just announce Terry's out. It's either going to be game time decision and he plays, or it's one of 3 options. Game time decision and he plays, game time decision and he doesn't play, or Terry's ruled out on Friday. But I don't think we'll get to Wednesday and Terry is limited in practice. And then Thursday, he's a full participant. And by Friday, he's not on the injury report, or he's listed as probable or questionable, right? I don't think we'll get to that. I think he'll be listed as, questionable all week. And then you get to Sunday, game time decision, and then we'll hear from one of the beat reporters. Terry tested out the toe pregame, wasn't able to go, and so he's a scratch, right? Or Terry tested out the toe, felt good, he's going to give it a go week 1 against Arizona. That's what you're going to ultimately hear. If he doesn't play in week 1, I think he'll play in week 2. That's my guess, because then he would have had a month since the injury, essentially. All right. When did we play the Ravens? What was the date on that? What's today? The 24th. We played them on the 21st. And our second game of the season is the 17th. So you're essentially talking about a month. I think he'll be ready to go. Again, it's turf toe. It's a sumbitch. But I think he'll be ready to go by Denver. Worst case scenario. No later than week 3 against Buffalo. So, Fat American is back with facts. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Writes, what do you think of the draft and development philosophy, i.e. the later round picks, Forrest, Curl, JS Dub, Chris Paul, Ridgeway, etc.? They don't give up on them. Now, Ridgeway wasn't ours, but he was a 5th rounder from Dallas. But that's what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to give up on these guys. So let me, and I thought I made this clear, but let me say it again to make it abundantly clear. So, so that you understand me, okay? Cutting a 5th, 6th, or 7th round pick, or in the case of Braden Daniels, a 4th round pick, cutting doesn't mean you're giving up on those players. It just means there's somebody here that we feel like can help us now, or is in a position, a better position to help us now than you are. Doesn't mean we give up on you. It just means we feel like you need more work, and we would love for you to get that work here with us. Join the practice squad, continue to get reps, continue to be in these meetings, learn the defense, continue to put in work, jump on the practice squad or the scout team, do all the little things, continue to fine-tune your technique, continue to work on the little things to get your game better, and eventually an opportunity for you might come, right? And Chris Paul didn't make this team last year, right? Like, Chris Paul was on the practice squad. They pulled him up late in the season, and he started in week 18. It's okay to cut a 7th round pick. It's okay to cut a 6th round pick. It's okay to cut a 5th round pick. It's rare, but you can cut a 4th round pick. You shouldn't be cutting day 1 or day 2 picks. Those, you don't cut those at all. But day 3 is off. All day 3 picks are on the table. It's all fair game. And just because you cut a guy doesn't mean you give up. Now, in the case of Force, 5th round pick, Curl, 7th round pick, JS Dub, 7th round pick, Chris Paul, 7th round pick, those guys, with the exception of Chris Paul, all made the team. We were in a different state then, right? We had no talent, essentially, in those days. JS Dub was a part of that 2020 draft class, the first one when Ron got here. We had nothing then. So talent-wise, you were looking to keep all your draft picks. The next year, we were in the same spot. We were still trying to build the roster in 21. So you're able to keep a Derek Forrest as a 5th round pick. You're able to keep, Cam Curl. I think he was in that 2020 draft as well as a 7th rounder, along with JS Dub. Like, you're able to keep all these dudes because we didn't have a ton of talent. It's different now. The roster is being filled out with those same players that you're referring to. The Cam Curls, the Derek Forrests, the Chris Pauls, all these guys that you're developing, they're on the roster, and we like these players. We see an upside there. We see a future. And so these young guys, there's not as many spots now. So what I'm saying is, you can't just keep a guy because you drafted him. You keep a guy because there's value in him being on the roster right now. If that answer is no, if there is no value being added by Braden Daniels being on this football team right now, but you think there's an upside, you have to cut him and hope that he makes it to your practice squad. Now, you may not value Trenton Scott in that way, and you may say Trenton Scott for 1 year versus Braden Daniels for the next 4. I'll take my chances with Braden Daniels and his continued development. And if you never get into a pinch where you have to get to your 4th tackle, we won't ever have this conversation, and we'll be fine. But if we ever get to the point where we have to go to a 4th tackle and Braden Daniels has to come into the game and he gets his ass torched, we're coming back here and I'm out for blood. Pitchfork in one hand, torch in the other, and somebody's got to pay. And you don't want to put yourself in that position. That's all I'm saying. Especially in a I have to win this year type of situation. So that's the point of drafting guys in late rounds. That's why they call them developmental prospects. They're not ready to help right now, but with work and fine-tuning, you develop those prospects over time. They may be able to yield you dividends. Braden Daniels was overdrafted. That's on them. He shouldn't have been taken in the 4th round because he wasn't ready to help. You take Braden Daniels in the 6th round. Are we having this conversation? No, you can cut a 6th round pick. Nobody's tripping. Nothing to see here. 4th round is different. That's the first pick of day number 3. It's like an extension of day 2 almost. You cut that guy and there's problems. Like it feels like it. I've seen 4th round picks cut before. Doesn't happen very often. I remember the Raiders, I think they had drafted a quarterback in the 4th round, and this is years ago. You don't see it very often. Teams generally don't cut 4th round picks. You got to cut Braden Daniels. If he can't add any value to your football team, you have to cut him. Doesn't mean you're giving up on him. Just means he's not ready to help. You continue to develop him on the practice squad. They're going to keep Andre Jones Jr. He's a 7th round pick because he adds value to this roster. They're going to keep Chris Rodriguez Jr. He's a 6th round pick. Why? Because he adds value to this roster. It's not hard. These equations are really simple. Fat American is back with facts. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, yes, I know Ridgeway is a UDFA. And actually, he was a 5th round pick by the Cowboys out of Arkansas. He said UDFA doing well too. So, but we got him from another team. So, I mean, UDFA 5th round pick. He wasn't ours organically, but he's ours. We feel like he's a part of the fam from the jump because his rookie season was spent here in Washington. You know, even though he was drafted by Dallas, we took him under our wings immediately, and he became a part of the family. Marcus Dixon, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Marcus writes, top 3 things that need to happen to shock the world this year, and top 3 things that could derail this season to another lost season. Injury, scheme, question marks. So obviously, I mean, you know what can derail this season. It's not hard. It's not rocket science. I mean, we've talked about these, different outcomes numerous times. Offensive line implodes like it did last year. Sam isn't any good, and injuries. Those are your top 3, right? Those things, any of those things happen, and this could go sideways very quickly. Sam could save. You could have, uneven line play, but Sam could save you. But you don't want to put that kind of pressure on a first-year starter, right? So offensive line, injuries, those 2 are at the top. Because even if Sam's good, even the staff being, Ron in particular not being the best, you can overcome that. At some point, it's probably going to catch up with you, though. If Ron doesn't get on his shit this year, if EB, doesn't have the kind of influence that we hope he does, it could catch up with you. But those are the 3 things. Now, as far as us shocking the world, I think it's pretty simple on that end as well, but it starts with the offense. You want to get particular, it starts with Sam. But the offense has been the problem. We averaged 18.9 points a game last season. Again, I'm shocked that we won 8 games, averaging 18.9 points a game. That is still mind-boggling to me that we were able to do that. And the only reason we probably averaged 18.9 is because we had a couple of outlier games, the Jacksonville game, the Detroit game, or a few. The Jacksonville game, the Detroit game, and then the Eagles' second game were the 3 outlier games that allowed us. And you may be able to throw Dallas in there, the last Dallas game when we scored 26 or whatever it was. Those are outlier games. 32, 26, 27, 28. That's what pushed the average up. But just about the rest of the games, we were right in that, 17 to 20 range, right? So offense is going to be the key. Turnovers. We need to force more of them. If honestly speaking, if we just get the performance we got out of the defense last year and the turnovers still are lacking, but we get off the field on third downs and we see an uptick in the offense, you can still win games that way. You do not have to produce turnovers for us to take that next step. You want to produce turnovers. It makes life a lot easier. It shortens the field. It takes away scoring opportunities. Turnovers are awesome, but they're not necessary. As long as we're not turning it over and the defense is getting off the field on third downs like they did last year when they were the best in football, you get the ball back to your offense. If they're dynamic, if they're putting up points, you're going to win a lot of football games. So again, the defense either needs to repeat what they did last year or take it up a notch. But what we don't want them doing is regressing. If there's a slight regression, but it comes at the expense of more turnovers, then it balances it out and we're still good on defense. So let's say you're not number one in third down defense. You're now number 8 on third downs in terms of getting off the field. Let's say that you're not top 5 in total yards given up in the league, but rather, let's say you're at 9 or 10. All right. Let's say that instead of being 7th in the league in total points given up or points per game given up, let's say that that number goes to 12. But if you now all of a sudden being, what were we like? 5th to last in the league or something like that in turnovers forced, wherever we were. If you go from that to say we were 28th in the league last year in turnovers forced. You go from 28th to, let's say, 11th or 12th. Well, let's just say middle of the pack. Let's say you're 15 or 16th. It'll balance out some of the things that you might have, fallen back at. The biggest thing is points per game. You just don't want to be giving those up. Period. So all the other stats can kind of fluctuate. If you stay right around where you at points per game given up, we're going to have a chance to win a bunch of games. But so again, offense needs to be dynamic. Defense needs to at least at a bare minimum give us what they gave us last year. If not, I would like to see them take it up a notch. This is year 4 Jack's scheme. They added, early round draft picks to this defense. Chase Young is back. There's no excuse. Take it to the next level defensively. And then I think the last piece is special teams. Joey Sly, Tress Way, Cam Cheeseman all of a sudden is a question mark, right? We need special teams to complete the cipher. Put the cherry on top, right? Make your kicks. Don't have us chasing points because you missed the extra point. Now we got to go for 2 at some point in the game. Then you don't get that. Now you're chasing more points. Like, don't send us down a rabbit hole because you missed the extra point early in the second quarter. Don't miss a field goal, right? That was an opportunity to put points on the board. Don't kill momentum. You know how deflating you go on an 11-play drive, 69 yards. It stalls out at the 13-yard line, and you send Joey Sly out for a 31-yard field goal, and then he misses. Or the drive stalls out, 11 plays, 58 yards. It stalls out at the 19-yard line. You send 38-yard field goal, and he misses. You know how deflating that shit is? I remember the Chiefs game 2 years ago when we cut Dustin Hopkins. We were leading 13-10 at halftime over the Chiefs. We had forced 3 turnovers in the first half of Kansas City. Picked Mahomes off twice, forced a fumble. We were hanging tough, man. We get the ball to start the third quarter. We drive it down the field. The drive stalls out, and we send Dustin Hopkins in for like a 41-yard field goal, and he misses that bitch. The Chiefs then ran off 21 unanswered points and won the game 31-13 going away. We never recovered from that missed field goal. And Ron was pissed, and he cut him after the game. And rightfully so. Missed field goals can be debilitating. That's the final piece of the puzzle. You need a reliable special teams, and not just place kicking, punting, snapping the ball, and all the things that we always think about. Covering kicks, downing them inside the 5. When Tress booms one and it kicks up at the 2, don't run down there 200 miles an hour and decide you want to be the hero that stops the ball. Do what James Smith-Williams did on Monday night and bat the bitch back into play. Don't be the guy that wants to land on it. Oh, I'm going to somehow put on the brakes at the 5, and my momentum, because I'm running 22 miles an hour, my momentum's not going to carry me in the end zone. I'm going to cover the ball up myself. Don't be an ass, okay? Don't be the guy that decides I got to be the one to down it. You be the one to bat it back into play to make sure that it gets downed at the 4. We had too many of those instances last year where dum-dums decided they wanted to run down there and be the guy to stop, knowing you can't stop. You running too damn fast to stop. Like little things like that. There's a huge difference between starting the drive at the 3 and starting it at the 20. It's a big difference. Huge difference in field position, how aggressive a team's going to come out on offense, what it can do for the tenor of the game. Special teams can win you games. It can lose you games. I just talked about hitting yardage when you punt the ball, and some numbnuts wants to be the first guy out of bounds and then the first one to touch the ball. If you know your monkey ass went out of bounds, do not be the first one to touch the ball. That's a penalty. So even if you save it, it doesn't matter. You ran out of bounds. You can't be the first to touch it. Be smart. If it's 3 of y'all down there, you don't be the one to touch it. We did that shit twice last year. That's an avoidable mistake that cost you on special teams. Don't do that. The little things is the difference between winning in this league and losing in this league. You want to shock the world? Score a bunch of points on offense. Be dynamic and explosive. Give the same defensive effort or take it up a notch. And special teams has to be outstanding as well and carry its own weight. That's how you shock the world. And in an honorable mention to that list is the coaching has to be better. If it's a challengeable offense, throw the damn flag. If it's not, don't waste a timeout like you did against Tennessee, challenging a catch that you knew wasn't a damn catch. But then going to let the Eagles get away with a catch that I don't think it was a catch. None of us thought it was a catch that literally jump-started a 24-point quarter for them after we shut them down in the first quarter. Understand when you need to throw the challenge flag and when you don't. Understand when a timeout is necessary. Don't tell me after the game, after you botched it, oh, the analytics people told me to do that. Okay, yeah, right. They didn't tell you to do that shit. We're not dummies. DC Dude, stand up. You are the newest member of the MOBB. So glad to have you on board. Mob, y'all know what to do. Show DC Dude some love. Welcome him with open arms. Look forward to chopping it up with you, DC Dude. Welcome to the squad. Glad to have you on board. Fat American is back with facts. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, I guess what I meant is that we actually seem to work with our later draft picks now. It's new to see that, or maybe we've just been hitting on them. No, it's not new necessarily. I mean, the NFL has evolved. And I talked about this earlier in tonight's show. There was once upon a time where 5th, 6th, and 7th rounders were long shots to make your roster. You know, those guys weren't like the NFL has shifted now to where GMs are looking for players that they can add to their roster in the 5th, 6th, and 7th. They expect those guys to make their football team. They're disappointed when they don't. Whereas before, the assumption was they were just going to throw a couple darts at the board, see if they stick. We don't expect them to, but hey, why not take a flyer on this guy or that guy or that guy and see what happens? But we expect to cut those guys. Now there's this expectation that, hey, your 5th round pick should be on the team. 6th rounder, he has a really fair shot at making it. 7th rounder, he's still a little bit of a long shot, but hey, you know, all bets are off. He is a draft pick, by the way. So what has happened the last 3 years now, 4 under Ron, is when Ron got here, we might have had the worst roster in football. Like 2019, our roster was garbage. So Ron got here in 2020, and they purged the roster. We already didn't have shit to begin with, and they got rid of a bunch of guys. Remember that offseason when Ron first got here, remember how many free agents they signed? We had to have signed like 12 dudes. No bullshit. John Bostic, I think, was new to the scene in 2020. Wes Schweitzer, Kendall Fuller came back. Cornelius Lucas came on board. J.D. McKissick came on board. Like, I mean, I could go on and on. Like, there was so many guys that they signed that free agency period. We added so many guys to this team. And so they kind of turned the roster. Logan Thomas, if I didn't mention him already, was another guy they signed. Like, it was so many. But they turned over the roster, and we still had a long ways to go, And so you were able to keep those draft picks because what was stopping them from making the team? And as you continue to build, 2021, same deal. What's stopping you from your entire draft class making the team? I think the only guy that didn't make it again was William Bradley King in 2021. Shaka Toney made it. Dax Mill made it. They were both 7th rounders along with William Bradley King. I think William Bradley King was the only 7th rounder not to make it. 2022, the entire draft class made it with the exception of Chris Paul. Everybody else made it. He was a 7th round pick. Again, that's what it's been essentially. Is the whole draft class is making the roster because we didn't have anything. This year is different. The whole draft class doesn't have to make the team. And your 7th round pick actually looks like he's going to make the team. So 6 rounders are going to make 7th round is going to make the team. 6th round is going to make the team. Your 5th is in question. Your 4th is in question. Your 1st, your 2nd, your 3rd are all good, but the 4th and 5th are in question. So I think there's been a change around the league philosophically where you expect the vast majority of your draft class to make the team. Fat American, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Fat American writes, just been pretty happy with day 3 picks so far. They've been doing a really good job. And honestly, some of the day 3 picks probably wouldn't have been exactly where they were if not for circumstances. Like, I know Cam Curl in 2020 had an injury, so he didn't really run. And there wasn't a combine that year, if you recall, that was COVID. So he didn't get to showcase his skills because he had a slow 40 time from like college. So he didn't get to work out for teams and get to, get on the whiteboard. They would have been impressed with him. They swear that he wouldn't have been there in the 7th round. They felt like they got a steal because he wasn't able to wow people in person the way that he would have had he gone through the process in a normal fashion. He probably would have been a 5th or a 4th round pick. They felt like they got away with one. A guy like Andre Jones Jr. didn't get to run. He had an injury. Had he shown some athleticism, had he shown, he's already a big kid. He's already got long arms and things of that nature. So he looks the part. If he would have been able to put some athleticism to his size and length, he probably would have gotten drafted sooner than the 7th round, but these things happen. So I've been really impressed with what we've gotten out of these late round picks. I'd be more impressed if they find a way to hit on some of these 2nd rounders, though. Because we've done damage in the 3rd round. We've done damage in the 7th round. I think we're starting to do damage in the 5th when you look at guys like Defoe, Cole Turner potentially, Sam Howell potentially. The 5th round is starting to shape up for us. But I've said this to you guys already. The odd rounds seem to be the rounds where we strike 1, 3, 5, and 7. The even rounds seem to be when we struggle, second, fourth, and sixth. So I'm hoping that that can change. Fat American, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy. Fat American writes, the wide receiver room, top to bottom, UDFA free agents been nice. They've done a really good job of filling that room and making it competitive. To your point, top to bottom. Even a guy like Bryson Tremaine, who was huge on that final drive against the Ravens, stepped up, made some plays. They like Kyrick McGowan, who was here last year as a core special teamer that was on the practice squad that would get pulled up on a number of game days. You'd see 83 out of nowhere, like, what the hell is he doing up here? So bringing in Marcus Kemp, bringing in Mitchell Tinsley, bringing in Kaz Allen, those guys have come in and really filled that room up with, talented guys who have come in and competed and made it a really interesting room for sure. Michael Mason II, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Michael writes, what happens to Sims Jr.? He's a dog. Thoughts at running back. He's now in Houston with the Texans. He was with the Steelers last year. Actually played well for the Steelers, but they only signed him because the guy they drafted, Austin, out of Memphis, got hurt last year. He's back now, and he already had a big punt return in the preseason, so there was no need for Steven Sims Jr. once the Austin kid that they drafted the year before was healthy. So he's now in Houston. He had a nice return in week 1, I think, of the preseason, did Steven Sims Jr. I don't know if he's going to make their roster or not, but he had a nice return. And thoughts at running back. There's not really much to say about the running back position. We know the three. They like Jonathan Williams. I like Jonathan Williams, but Jonathan Williams is like 20, I think, was he 29 years old? Let me take a look and see. Jonathan Williams is 29 years old, right? Like, so at some point you say, all right, I want to deal with the young boys. Okay. That's Jared Patterson, Chris Rodriguez, Gore is probably 20, 23, 24 years old. Derek Gore, okay, he's 28. So I don't have any, I don't have any loyalty to older running backs, if that makes any sense. You 28, you 29, I'm good on that. Give me the 23-year-old. Jared Patterson is 23 years old. Chris Rodriguez is 23 years old. Let me see how old Brian Robinson and AG are. Brian Robinson is 24 years old. Let's see how old Antonio Gibson is. Antonio Gibson is, let me go to the running back position. Antonio Gibson is 25. So let me deal with the young boys. Gibson is 25. Robinson is 24. Jared Patterson is 23. Chris Rodriguez is 23. That's what I'm looking for. Guys that I can build a future with, potentially. So we know the three guys they're going to keep, and it sucks for Jared Patterson. I saw something today where he was talking to one of the local sports dudes, and he pretty much said, look, I know I can play in this league, and if it ain't here, it's whatever, man. But I'm going to just continue to go out, defy the odds like I've done my entire life. I've always been too small to do this or too small to do that, not big enough. So I'm going to just continue to do what I do. And that play he made on Monday night is going to bode well for him. He goes out, has a really good game against Cincinnati on Saturday night. And I don't think he's going to end up here, but I think this might be our last year of having Jared Patterson just around. Good old Jared can be pulled up at any point. I think somebody's going to snatch him up this time around because I do believe he can play in this league. I do think he is an NFL running back. And I would honestly, I would like to see him get an honest shot here. I really would, but the numbers don't suggest that that's going to take place. So if they decided to keep him instead of Alex Arma, or said, Arma, you're a tight end, or they could just keep Arma as a fullback. Like, you don't have to assign him to a specific position to make it make sense. They can keep 5 running backs, have Arma and Jaret Patterson. Who gives a shit? The numbers still are what they are. It doesn't really matter where you assign them, right? So if they decide to keep Alex Arma and Jaret Patterson, obviously you're going to have to trim off fat somewhere else. But if they decide, I wouldn't blink. I'd be excited for him. But that's not going to happen. They're not keeping Jaret Patterson on the roster. I don't think they're keeping a 4th actual back. I think they're keeping Alex Arma. Spence Kalis, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Spence writes, just get next game over with and be healthy. And again, most of the guys that are going to play in this game aren't going to be major contributors. Now, with that said, there are going to be guys that play in this game that are going to make this team. So to that point, you want to see those guys stay healthy. Like Quan Martin's going to be out there on Saturday night. You want him to stay healthy. He's making the football team. Some of those backup offensive linemen are going to be out there. Tyler Larson and Ricky Stromberg and Trenton Scott and, Chris Paul. Those guys are playing in this game. You want them to stay healthy. They're making this football team. So, yes, I 110% agree with you. Get this game over with. No casualties. Come out of that thing healthy. Let's get ready for week 1 against Arizona. Jado, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. My guy, Jado writes, we about to stomp a mud hole on Arizona. It feels like it with them I don't want to say they're waving the white flag, but you saw they traded for Josh Dobbs, right, from the Browns. And what a smart move by the Browns. I said this 2 weeks ago, and I probably sounded crazy after the first preseason game because we had already seen DTR in the Hall of Fame game, and then we saw him again in the first preseason game against I think the first game was against the Eagles, if I'm not mistaken. That might have been the second game. The first game was against us. What am I talking about? Their first game was against us, and he played well again. And then I saw him again against the Eagles. By then, I was already impressed enough to say, I think he should be their QB too, honestly, behind Deshaun Watson. Like, what are we waiting on? Joshua Dobbs sucks. Why are you keeping him in front of DTR and stunting his growth? Why keep 3 quarterbacks on the roster when you got Watson and then keep DTR and you feel really good about either one of those dudes? Well, they agreed with me because they traded Joshua Dobbs to Arizona. And I'm looking at Dobbs and I'm saying, is he going to start week 1 over Colt McCoy? I doubt it. But, I mean, they traded for him for a reason. So, I don't know. We'll see. Either way, Colt McCoy, Joshua Dobbs, somebody's coming in here and they're getting their ass whooped. That's all I know. Fat American, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, you cutting Kaz before Mill? Kaz needs a spot, bro. If it were up to me, I wouldn't cut Kaz before Mill. I would, again, I need him to show me something in this 3rd preseason game. And only they know what he's been doing in practice. I heard he's been fielding a bunch of punts on the jugs machine. A bunch of punts. So right now they're really priming him to be the return specialist. We know he can field kickoffs and bring them out. He doesn't need work on that. He did that in college. What he didn't do in college was return punts. So they're trying to get him to a place where they're comfortable putting him out there as the primary punt returner. If he can't show them that he can handle that role, you have to keep Dax. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And you can't keep Kaz Allen as just your kickoff return man either. He has to do both. Okay? It's both or nothing. You got to go. So really, this game is all about how does he handle and field punts. Even if he doesn't return a single one, what decisions does he make? Does he catch it? Does he look down, see that the rush is coming, fair catch it? That's a smart decision. Does he, run, act like he's catching it, and then act like he's catching it, but it's over his head, fake him out so it can go into the end zone? Does he make a smart decision? Does he field one on the 2-yard line like a dodo? Like, does he bobble one? Does he drop one? Like, these are the things we'll be looking for in this final preseason game. And if he takes care of business, he should be on the roster. I'd take him over Milne right now. But again, he's got to show it to me. I've got PTSD. I've sat through return guys that were ultra talented, but they just, for whatever reason, went through a stretch where they just couldn't field a punt to save their life or hold on to it. They were fumbling, and it cost us. I don't want to go through that again. And I know for a fact with Dax Milne, I don't have to go through that. So sometimes I'm willing to deal with the enemy that I know versus the devil that I don't. I'd rather deal with the devil that I do know versus the one that I don't. So we'll see. But yeah, no, if I had to pit the two against one another, if I get out of Kaz Allen what I know his talent suggests he's capable of doing without any hiccups as a punt returner, yeah, he should be on the team. Because again, Dax Milne can help at receiver, but the hope is that you can get by with what we have in front of him. Like, we got 5 dudes that are fully capable of playing receiver in front of Dax. Like, him as a primary receiver. Remember when we first got Dax, we was like, oh man, we need him in the slot. We won't have anybody else that can play in the slot. Terry can go in the slot. Jahan can go in the slot. Curtis is already your primary slot. Like, we got mad dudes that can play inside now. Like, we don't have to keep Dax for that specific purpose. When he first got here, like, we literally needed him in the slot because Terry wasn't playing multiple positions then. We didn't have Jahan, and Curtis was banged up in Dax's rookie season. So you were looking around like, hey, we really, really need Dax Milne to step up. That's not the case anymore. So, and another thing, if Kaz Allen can't return punts, you don't need him because Byron Pringle can return kickoffs and Dax Milne can return punts. So you got 2 dudes that can handle those roles individually. So again, if you're going to keep, Kaz Allen, he better be able to do both. Rocky D, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Rocky D writes, if successful season, Josh Harris does the Robert Kraft approach and decided to shove more money to EB's face for him to stay like Josh McDaniels with the Patriots, you think EB would stay? I think EB wants to be his own head coach more than anything. It's not about the money, I don't think. I think EB wants to debunk this narrative that he can't be a head coach in this league. So if an opportunity came calling, he would take it, I believe, just off the strength of principle and saying, nah, I'm about to show all you mother effers out there that y'all passed up on me and y'all made a critical mistake. Not a mistake, a franchise-altering mistake. I could have been the guy to turn your franchise around. You missed out. So I don't think it's about money necessarily. I mean, money never hurts. And if he has to stay here another year or two, he'd be willing to do it, obviously. But I don't think it's a situation like, for instance, in New England, Gerard Mayo could have taken some interviews. He's their linebackers coach / like defensive coordinator. But, they always have these weird, funky titles in New England. But he's like the head coach in waiting, essentially, is Gerard Mayo. Like, they love him in New England. He's the highest paid assistant in the NFL right now, right? Because he's not even a coordinator. He's the highest paid assistant in the NFL. And they made it that way because they don't want to lose him. And there were teams that wanted to interview him for a head coaching job, and he turned down those interviews because He wants to stay in New England, and they paid him to stay in New England. That's not what EB's on. That's not the type of time he's on, because nothing is guaranteed to him here. That's number one. And number two, he's chomping at the bit to get a head coaching opportunity. So he's not leaving here like he did Kansas City for another lateral position, right? He's not leaving here to take another coordinator job. The only way he's leaving Washington is if he's getting a head coaching gig. So I don't think money factors in, because if a head coaching gig comes up and Washington offers him, remember the Eagles offered their defensive coordinator, Jonathan Gannon, more money to stay in Philadelphia as a defensive coordinator than the deal he got in Arizona to be their head coach. And he still took the deal to be the new head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. Why? Because you want to be your own guy. You don't want to have to take orders from anybody else. You want to be that's why you get into this profession. Most guys get into the profession to be a head coach. So that's a different situation of throwing money at somebody to get them to stay. Is Josh McDaniels had already been a head coach before. So he was like, yeah, I want to do it again, but I'm going to wait for the right opportunity. I'm not just jumping out there. I can wait. Gerard Mayo isn't even a coordinator yet, technically, but he's getting paid coordinator money, if that makes sense. He's probably getting paid close to head coach money to stay. So he's cool with that. It's a little different here. Chauncey Davis, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, CD, OG, triple OG. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, Vegas using Cam Sims in their red zone schemes. I know you a Cam Sims stan. We always felt like there was an opportunity missed here for guys like Cam Sims and Logan Thomas in particular in the red zone. For whatever reason, they failed to utilize those guys the way that they should have. Whenever Cam was really, because I remember being one of those people that looked down on Cam Sims because I didn't think he high pointed the ball well enough. But then every time the Giants game in 2020, when we lost because we went for 2, he went up and got that football late in the game. The Dallas game against Trayvon Diggs in 2021, when he put his nutsack on Trayvon Diggs' helmet and took the ball away from him. He's shown the ability to go up and climb the ladder and get the football. And we just didn't give him enough opportunities. It's unfortunate, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. Anyway, I digress. That was the last super, so we'll get out of here. I probably will have a post for you tomorrow. I should. I may not. We'll see. But you'll definitely see me on Saturday. I will be lit on Saturday night. So come stop through if you ain't doing nothing after the game. Because, again, in order for me to watch 2 or 3 quarters of Jake Fromm, I have to be intoxicated. So we'll wrap up the game, talk about who made an impact and who might have made a statement to try to make the team. We'll be that much closer to Super Friends. Remember, if you haven't already done so, please go over, sub up to the Super Friends channel, NFC East Super Friends. The link is in the description of this video, but all you have to do is type in at NFC East Super Friends. It'll pop up, and sub up, turn on the notification bell. We're going live on Wednesday night, August 30th at 8 p.m. Should be fun. I got a lot to say. So anyway, you guys know what it is, man. I appreciate y'all stopping through, chopping it up with the kid. Got a super chat here from Michael Mason II. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes 1 MJ, 2 KB, 3 LBJ. Favorite rapper, Young Dolph or Yo Gotti? This is a very confusing post, but take Yo Gotti all day long, all day strong. Now, neither of them are my favorite rapper, but if you're telling me to choose between the two, Young Dolph, may he rest in peace. Give me Yo Gotti, though. Anyway, I digress. You guys enjoy the rest of your evening. Probably will post tomorrow. If you haven't already done so, sub up my music channel, MusicHead University. It's been a little dormant lately. I'm about to be back. I'll be posting a new video tomorrow. So if you haven't you haven't subbed up my music channel, MusicHead University, that link is in the description as well. Go ahead, sub that up. I'll be definitely posting a video tomorrow for the LouieTeeNetwork exclusives. So if you haven't done that yet and you plan on participating in any of them, go ahead and sign up. You know, registration form, all of that good stuff. I've got to be more vigilant about posting that stuff everywhere so it's accessible now that I don't have my website anymore. So I'll be making sure that I post that stuff a lot more all over the place, on my wall, on social media, on my videos, all of that good jazz. But I mean, if you're interested in any of those leagues, please let me know. Email me. I'll get you all the information you need. But again, starting to heat up. We're getting close to the start of the regular season, so that means it's time for the LTN exclusives to take place. But I'll talk about that ad nauseum tomorrow. So I got a lot going on, as you can see. MusicHead University. Sub that up if you haven't. If you enjoy music and you enjoy the Louie T Network, it's a mash of the two. Please, by all means, check it out. If you like it, sub it up. If you don't bother, right? NFC East Super Friends. That's the only place you're going to be able to get those Super Friends streams, and anything associated with the NFC East Super Friends is going to be on that channel. It's not going to be on the Louie T Network. It's not going to be on Lord Brunson's channel. It's not going to be on Bad Dog Sports. It's not going to be on Law Nation Sports. Only on NFC East Super Friends. So if you haven't subbed that up, please do that now, because we will be live making our season predictions for the NFC East on Wednesday night, August 30th at 8 p.m. You do not want to miss it. And as I've said already, I need y'all to come out in full force and hold the kid down. Anyway, I digress. You guys get out of here. Take care. I'll see you guys either tomorrow, definitely Saturday night. Bart Scott, can't wait. Until then, you guys take care. God bless, and good night.
Louie